Good evening, good evening. Happy Tuesday, everybody. I call to order the March 8th, 2022 regular meeting of the City Council. Will everyone please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam City Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Massey.
Here.
Councilmember Campbell.
Here.
Councilmember Armato. Mayor Pro Tem Jackson.
Here.
Mayor Dutoy. He's excused for the beginning of the meeting. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Are there any announcements this evening? Mary, I think I'll turn it over to you first to announce March Hermosa events.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to set the stage for Hermosa events announcements because I think our distinguished president of the Hermosa Beach Chamber is got a bead on all of the scheduled events. The only thing I'd like to add is there, for anyone who hasn't heard, we've had a little idea cooking for a couple of years actually, and then the pandemic, you know, like everything else. And since we have this wonderful name, Hermosa Beach, we thought it would be nice to honor women in all kinds of potential ways during the month of March. It might become kind of a tradition, at least I hope so. So we have a lot of ideas, and we didn't have the time in advance a year back, not knowing what was going to happen to get super formal. But it just turns out that there are so many great women who've come together to put together an event or two. We have some very iconic milestone events happening that center around women in Hermosa Beach. And President Acamando of the Chamber was able to get a couple of women to volunteer to kind of head up things. And so the last thing I wanted to say is I volunteered to take on the moniker of the philanthropic arm of Hermosa, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to get together some women, just a real casual focus group, and we're going to talk about maybe what we could do, women of Hermosa, to support women and or families abroad. So it's got like a little bit of a world citizen focus. And of course, we might be focusing on what's going on in Ukraine this month. So look forward to that. I'll be huddling to talk about that somewhere in town to just see what we can come up with in terms of some ideas. And that's all I had, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Councilmember Campbell. Do any of my other colleagues have announcements? Okay, I've got a couple. The Community Resource Department has released a spring-summer recreation brochure full of classes and camps. The brochure is available at www.hermosabeach.gov/recreation, and registration begins March 1st at 8 a.m. St. Patrick's Day Parade is back. This Saturday, March 12th, the Hermosa Beach Chamber of Commerce, Madam President, is bringing back the St. Patrick's Day Parade, a community treasured event from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Come out to this family-friendly event to see some of your favorite local nonprofits, unique vehicles, cool brands, and more in this eclectic and diverse celebration. Pier Avenue and Hermosa Avenue will be closed early morning Saturday so that the parade route can be well established. The community is welcome to line up on the street, enjoy the parade near one of the 3 announcing stages to enjoy information about each parade entry. There will also be activities on Pier Plaza following the parade from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Friends of the Library, we are pausing for a minute.
But everything you said was amazing. maybe. I'm just going to make a test for those on Zoom. If our city attorney can let me know if he can hear us.
Yes, City Manager.
I think we're back. Madam City Clerk, do you feel comfortable that we're back? Okay. Mayor Pro Tem, would you mind starting your announcements over?
Okay, we're gonna start again. Do we need to rewind back to Mary? The Community Resources Department has released the Spring-Summer Recreation Brochure full of classes and wonderful camps. The brochure is available at www.hermosabeach.gov/recreation, and registration begins March 1st at 8 a.m. Mood music, I love it, thank you. St. Patrick's Day Parade. This Saturday, March 12th, the Hermosa Beach Chamber of Commerce is bringing back the St. Patrick's Day Parade. What number is this? Number 26, a community treasured event from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Come out to this family-friendly event to see some of your favorite local nonprofits, unique vehicles, cool brands, and more in this eclectic and diverse celebration. Pier Avenue and Hermosa Avenue will be closed early morning Saturday so that the parade route can be well established. The community is welcome to line up on the street. Come out and enjoy the parade near one of the 3 announcing stages to enjoy information about each parade entry. There will also be activities on Pier Plaza following the parade from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. On March 19th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., the Friends of the Library will be hosting a book sale. Stop by and check out the vast array of books available. Weekly, the library is open on Mondays from 9 a.m. to noon and Fridays from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Visit www.hbfol.org for more details on the Friday 19th sale and great work Friends of the Library does for the community. In support of those fighting to retain Ukraine's independence, as well as loved ones and expats here in our area, the city has changed our Pier Plaza lights to the Ukrainian flag colors of blue and yellow. We are thinking of all the refugees around the world and hoping for peace. Kindness counts. In the month of March, Beach City's Health District and the 3 beach cities of Manhattan Beach, Redondo Beach, and Hermosa Beach are joining together to encourage our communities to share stories of acts of kindness they have either given or received. Please help spread the word and visit www.bchd.org/kindnesscounts to share your stories. I'd also like just to give a shout out to Mark Mamber and all the great folks associated with Hermosa Beach Little League. They put together a great opening day celebration last Saturday, and a tip of the hat to Mark and all the countless volunteers who helped make Hermosa great by putting on a great opening day ceremony. So thank you to Mark and company. Madam City Clerk, what is next?
Item 6, approval of agenda. This is a time for the city council to change the order in which it takes up items on the agenda, remove and/or continue agenda items, and pull items from the consent calendar for separate consideration.
I'll move to approve, Mr. Mayor, or Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, excuse me.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Councilmember Massey,
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell,
Aye.
Councilmember Armato,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Jackson.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. And what is next?
Item 7, proclamations, presentations. A, COVID-19 health update from Beach Cities Health District presented by Ms. Thash.
Good evening and welcome.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me here again. We could take the first slide. Since the winter surge, we continue to see a consistent decline in average daily cases and positivity rate and hospitalizations, and seeing a slight decrease in average daily deaths. The daily test positivity rate is 1% compared to the 22% at the peak of the surge. The highest daily reported hospitalization during the surge was about 4,800, and as of yesterday, the daily hospitalization reported was 731. In the next slide, we see the same trend with the decline in cases in the beach cities. In February, the total cases in the beach cities was 720 compared to the 6,402 in January. The vaccination rates in the next slide continues to slightly increase by 1 or 2 percentage points. And as mandated safety measures decrease at many sites in public spaces, individuals are encouraged to get vaccinated and boosted. On the next slide, we'll see that the county is now using the CDC's COVID-19 community level matrix to assess the level of risks across the county. It has adopted corresponding preventive strategies. Testing? Okay. The CDC computes community risk level using hospitalizations, admissions, and proportions of inpatient beds occupied by COVID-19 patients as an indicator rather than transmission rates. Since we are now in low community risk, the risk level, the county has modified the health officer order regarding masking guidance, which we will cover in the next slide. Under this modified order, indoor masking is strongly recommended but not required for vaccinated and unvaccinated individuals in most indoor settings, with the exception of some high-risk settings. Masks are required for indoor settings with higher risks for transmission, such as schools, until March 12th. Public transit, transportation hubs, all healthcare settings, including long-term care and adult and senior care facilities, correctional facilities and detention centers, and homeless and emergency shelters. Employers are still required to offer medical grade masks and respirators to employees who work indoor and in contact with other workers, customers, and members of the public at any sites where masking is optional. It's important to note that no one can be prevented from wearing a mask as a condition of participation in an activity or entry into a business. The modified health officer order also updated requirements for pre-entry vaccination or negative test verifications. In the next slide, you can see that pre-entry vaccination or recent negative test verification is recommended, but no longer required for attendees at outdoor mega events and for patrons and employees at indoor portions of bars, breweries, wineries, distilleries, nightclubs, and lounges. Vaccine verification remains required in healthcare and congregate care settings and for entry into indoor mega events. In settings where pre-entry verification of vaccination or negative COVID-19 tests is not required, businesses, venues, operators, and hosts may choose to require pre-entry verification of COVID-19 vaccination or verification of negative COVID tests. Or both as an additional strategy to reduce transmission at their sites. And lastly, in the final slide, Beach City's health district successes in response to COVID-19 and supporting the community include operating vaccine clinics and test sites, running errands and delivering meals for older adults in the community. And these efforts were possible with the help of over 500 volunteers. That concludes my presentation for today.
Thank you very much, Ms. Thatch. I turn to my colleagues for any questions. Seeing there are none, thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Item B, presentation from California Water Service on water conservation, presented by Tammy Myers and Robert Thompson.
Good evening and welcome.
Good evening. Good evening, Your Honorable Mayor and Council, City Manager. My name is Robert Thompson with California Water Service Company. I'm the Operations Manager for our Hermosa Redondo District, and accompanied by our fantastic Conservation Manager, Miss Tammy Myers here. She'll definitely be doing the heavy lifting here. Just wanted to put a face to a name for those who I haven't met yet, and let's roll on into the presentation. Next slide, please. So, in case you aren't aware or haven't heard, California Water Service, we are your water purveyor. We're the third largest in the U.S., west of the Mississippi. On screen, there are a couple company-wide statistics, but most notably, we are the southernmost district there on our map of California. We go by the very confusing name Rancho Dominguez. We'll be changing that here within the next several months to something a little bit more on the nose. And then nonetheless, yeah. Next slide, please. So Rancho Dominguez District, just a quick overview and snapshot before we get into the meat and potatoes of the presentation. We're separated into 4 water systems: our Hermosa Redondo system, which we'll discuss here shortly, our Dominguez system over there in yellow, Palos Verde system in blue, and we have a Hawthorne Contract Operations Center in orange there at the top of the map. We're located centrally there in Torrance, not too far away, and centrally located in between all 4 of those systems. The conservation programs that Tammy will be touching on apply across the board, each of the systems, except for Hawthorne. And we are extremely excited to engage not only with the city on different projects, but you know, our shared constituency here in the South Bay. Next slide, please. And I'm passing it off to Miss Tammy Myers. Go.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you for having us. I greatly appreciate the opportunity. And as Rob mentioned, you know, all of our programs are available through all of our districts. And in light of, you know, the dry conditions that are currently existing, as well as the little to no rainfall that we are having, you know, we are trying to make sure that we're doing our due diligence to reach out to the public as well as our constituents to help them with their water use and wastewater needs. So as you will recall, the governor's emergency drought declaration on July 8th, there was an executive order calling on all Californians to reduce their water by 15% from their 2020 levels. In August 17th, 2021, Metropolitan Water District issues a water supply alert in response to the severe drought. At this point, you know, there's great concern as far as if we have no water, you know, we're going to have to cut back and hit on restrictions. And as you can see on the map that's on the right, that is a recent photo of the actual drought conditions through the drought monitor. And then on October 18th, all of the California counties were declared in emergency in a drought. So I really wanted to just be able to put up an image that kind of shows what level the entire state is in as far as the water conditions. I know a lot of people were very thankful for the rain that happened in December. However, with the snowpack and the lack of rain recently, you know, we are really trying to make sure that we're working with our customers to, you know, get people to cut back with their water, as well as just making sure that they're using it wisely. Next slide, please. Thank you. So our water conservation requirements, we want to make sure that everybody is aware of what not to do. Most of you may be aware that, you know, when you are washing off your car or if you're doing certain activities around the home, you want to make sure that you're using the appropriate devices. If you're washing your vehicle, make sure that you are using a shut-off nozzle, as well as make sure that you're not using water to wash off your driveways sidewalks. That does create rain runoff, and then you want to make sure that, you know, we're not wasting the water and putting it down into the gutter. The other thing that we wanted to make sure to highlight to you is to acknowledge the outdoor irrigation hours between 6 p.m. and 8 a.m. So if you are irrigating during those times, that allows for your landscape to be able to take in the water and be able to soak it in and be able to thrive, versus if you are using your water after 8 a.m. and in through the mid-morning. One, it's not recommended, and it can be a restriction. But the other thing is to make sure that the wind factor that takes place, depending on where you're located, the wind factor, you won't be getting the actual application of the water to your lawn. So we just want to make sure to highlight those few little items. And if you have any questions with regards to these, we do have additional information that's available on our website. Next slide, please. Now for the meat and potatoes, the rebate programs. Next slide.
Question.
Oh, do you want to allow for questions now or after?
These nuts in your mouth.
That's
hearing
outside.
feedback.
That's feedback. Go ahead,
Okay.
Ms. Myers.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Sorry about that.
Okay, no worries.
Up with office.
Okay. So wanted to let everybody know, you know, we're here to help you and to save water every day.
If I'm on this for over 2 hours, I'm like,
Could you please mute your mics? Thank you very much. Please mute your mics. Thank you.
Thank you. So we do have a lot of programs that are available for our customers. We want to make sure that we're offering as the greatest customer service available to the customers. And so we offer incentives to be able to encourage our customers to use water wisely and to really just replace those old water wasting devices that are at your home with new high efficient devices that will help you save water and know that you're using it more wisely. We have rebates that are available for all of our customer, multifamily, as well as our residential customers and our public agencies as well. So like the city, we have lots of programs that are available. We're offering rebates for our toilets, as well as clothes washers, irrigation controllers, and high efficiency nozzles. In light of the dry conditions, we have increased these dollars amounts for these rebates. Previously, the toilets were a $50 rebate. We are now offering $100. And for the high clothes washer machines, we are offering $300 versus the $150 that we were doing previously. We also have a program called the Smart Landscape Tune-Up Program, and that particular program allows our customers to sign up for free. And what we will do is we will actually send out a certified landscape contractor to come out and do an evaluation of your home, to evaluate your existing irrigation system and to see how we can help with improving that system moving forward, and also being able to note and highlight areas that may be of concern on your property. We also have conservation kits, which are available. We do have programs that are for our schools. So I do encourage any of the school systems to participate in our H2O challenge. And as we do move forward with, you know, the dry weather conditions, as well as the drought, we do have a dedicated page for the latest drought news. Next slide, please. So here we have a little bit of information with regards to our commercial rebate program. I really wanted to be able to touch base with our, whether it's multifamily, commercial property, and or city facilities, letting you know that we have rebates that are available specifically with commercial properties. We understand that there is a need to be able to address, you know, old systems that may need to be revamped. So we do offer a large rebate that allows for almost the cost of the devices to be installed. And as long as you are having a C27 certified contractor do the installation, we also add an additional $8 per nozzle installed to offset the cost of the labor fee. So if there's anybody out there who is looking to look at their properties, take a look at their irrigation system, and, you know, look at being able to upgrade their system, this is a great opportunity, especially for the commercial and multifamily properties and the city, of course. Next slide, please. So I'm happy to announce that we have launched a lawn to garden rebate program. This is a new program. It's been up for a little while now, but our lawn to garden program offers $3 per square foot of turf that is removed both for residential and commercial customers. So if you have anything over 250 square feet, for residential customers up to 1,500 square feet or commercial customers up to 10,000 square feet, we are offering $3 per square foot. This does not include artificial turf, and you must install 50% replaced with water-wise plant materials. Next slide, please. Okay, in conjunction with that program, we are also offering our spray to drip rebate program. This allows our customers to also incentivize when they are replacing their old sprinkler system with new drip line to be able to be more effective with where their water application is being installed. We offer 50 cents per square foot, minimum 250 square feet, maximum 1,500 square feet for residential and 10,000 square feet for our commercial customers. So a residential customer can receive up to $750 toward the expense for the drip irrigation, as well as a commercial customer could receive a max of $5,000 toward converting over from overhead spray to drip system. Next slide, please. Okay, our 2021 conservation report. Next slide. So I was trying to pull these numbers together. We've been working due diligently to get this to you tonight. So for your area, for the Hermosa Redondo water system, the annual water savings from all of our customers that have participated in our rebate programs with the installation of devices, we have had an annual savings of 1.5 million gallons and a lifetime of 11 million gallons for those particular devices. Underneath, you can see the lifetime by category. So there's plumbing fixtures that were replaced, irrigation and landscape upgrades that were made, as well as non-residential customer assistance and residential customer assistance, which would there be the smart landscape tune-up program, as well as evaluations. So I just wanted to be able to give everybody a snapshot of you guys are doing a great job. You know, the residents are actually participating in the programs, and we look forward to seeing these numbers jump up as more people apply for our programs. Next slide, please. So our conservation resources page, if you go to calwater.com, you can go there and click on the resources, or you can type in the address that's on the page right now. What this does is this allows you all of the information needed for our conservation. It allows for our conservation tips page. We have how-to videos as well as our conservation reports. And then we also have links available for drought-resistant plants and bee water-wise and fire-wise plant material as well. You'll see in also these resources, you'll see conservation rebates, the conservation kits, and then of course we have a direct link to the drought page, as well as a report, leaks and wastewater. Next page, please. And I will end on that note. So this is my contact information, as well as with Rob and Angie Gilbright, our regional community affairs. And if anybody has anything, I'm more than happy to answer any questions. I hope I didn't go too fast.
That was perfect. Thank you, Ms. Myers, and thank you, Mr. Thompson. I will look to my colleagues to see if there are any questions. Councilmember Massey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Tammy, thanks for the presentation. Two quick questions. One, we previously had a whole home audit by Cal Water Service. I think it's great that you have the landscaping audit, and that's helpful. Does Cal Water still offer the whole house audit?
At this time, we only have the outdoor audit for the landscape.
Okay.
However, you can, if there is a question, I mean, I can have somebody contact me directly, and if there's something that's in need, I can obviously assist with, you know, no problem.
Okay, great. For us, it was helpful because it was just, we looked at how we use water indoors and outdoors, and we're able to identify a couple of practices that we still use today to help conserve water.
Oh, good.
My next question was, the governor called for a 15% reduction. How are we doing in the Hermosa Redondo part of Cal Water?
I was hoping you weren't going to ask me that. I was trying to compile those numbers and I didn't have it yet, so I apologize, but I can't get that to you.
We typically float around 13 to 15% on any given month in terms of conservation to stick to those recommendations from the state.
Okay, and so just taking a slightly deeper dive, I know when Governor Brown asked everybody to cut by 20%, we did pretty well. I think statewide, we exceeded that by 1% or 2%. And in talking to water folks, there was a thought that some of those reductions would be permanent because they involve new infrastructure in people's homes and other practices that people would just stick with on a long-term basis. Is the 15% sort of from that 20%? I mean, are we continuing to conserve beyond, where we've moved in the past, say, 5 years, 10 years? And if you know, how have we been able to achieve that? Is it by just retiring old water-intensive equipment through some of the programs you have, or is it through people's behavior?
That's a great point. I will say that a lot of it has to do with behavior of the residents and, and the community, making sure that people just are aware of how they're using water. I know right now the 15% that was called upon was from the 2020 usage. And so we do have some information that's on the bills to allow and to help our customers understand that better on what that looks like. But as we move forward, the state definitely is looking at opportunities of if every single person were to change out their devices to new high efficiency devices, what would be the standard amount that would need to be used indoor? And then from that point, you would have to do kind of an estimation on what the outdoor requirement would be. So, as we move forward, you'll start to see more information about that. Nothing has been set in stone at this point, but there is some legislative and some markers that will be coming up in the near future. And when that happens, I will definitely be able to hopefully meet with you all again and be able to clarify that information and see what I can do to assist everyone.
Thank you, Tammy. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Massey. Any other questions? Yeah, I have just a couple quick ones, Tammy, if I could, please. I do like the idea of if you're able to at some point just to gather information to see how we're doing as a city along with Redondo, just to give us an indication of whether we need to tighten our belts a little bit more. I think that would be helpful if you're able to get that at some point.
Sure.
And you mentioned the Smart Landscape Tune-Up Program.
Mhm.
So that's offered for homeowners?
Yes. So it's offered for all of our customers,
Okay.
Whether it's commercial or residential or multifamily. What we do is when you sign up through the online portal, it'll allow you to just give your information and then you'll get a phone call for an appointment once we verify that you are a customer. And then they will actually come out and do an evaluation of your irrigation system. So they will look at your controller if you have a controller installed. They'll have you turn on the valves to make sure the valves are working. They'll do spot checks on all of the irrigation system to see, if there's areas where it's not popping up or where there's overhead spray or maybe where there's a broken nozzle. They'll write all that in a report. They'll also talk to the customer while they're out there. And then what they'll do is they'll make recommendations, send that back to Cal Water. And then upon approval, we would then send them out for a second visit to make the installation of recommended devices to be more efficient.
Great. Sounds like a great program. Is that something you offer for municipalities as well?
Yes, sir.
So that's something, so we can get a city checkup to see what we're doing right and not so right then.
I would be happy to work with you on that.
Oh, that's fantastic. All right. That's all I have. Thank you so much. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Myers, and thank you, Mr. Thompson. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
You as well.
Item 7C, introduction of new Hermosa Beach police officers from 2020 and 2021, presented by Chief Lebaron.
Good evening, Chief.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Jackson. I'm going to take an opportunity here, and I thank council for giving us this opportunity to introduce some of our officers that we neglected to introduce during COVID and really for the last year and a half or so. So I'm going to just go through and introduce each one of them. As I call their name, I would ask them to please show their face so that we can see who they are, and then we'll just move through the list like that and be open for questions after. I'm going to start with Detective Kurt Matico. Although he's not new, he was hired early in 2020. He did earn a position in less than 2 years with the police department as a detective. And that is an impressive accomplishment, something that rarely happens. He's phenomenal in his productivity and his ability to really solve crimes in a quick and effective manner. Kurt grew up in Southern California, and he studied criminal justice at Cal State Northridge. He is definitely an athlete. He likes to play all sports, but mainly golf, and he enjoys spending time with his family, family and friends on his off days. Detective Matiko's goals are to create some strong friendships at work, which he's already done, and to be the best officer he can be for Hermosa Beach. In his first year with the police department, he earned the MAD Award, which is the Mothers Against Drunk Driving Award for the most DUI arrests for the previous year. I would also like to point out he is one of our social media celebrities who has a recurring post about taking the community with him to dinner and showing them all the different restaurants in Hermosa Beach. So that is Detective Matiko, and I don't see him on here, but I see his name, but I don't see his face. So he must be shy. You can definitely see what he looks like if you go to our social media page. Next is going to be Officer Rick Taniguchi. Rick Taniguchi also was hired early in 2020. He was born and raised in the South Bay. He attended South Torrance High School, Long Beach State, and then received a golf scholarship at Cal State Dominguez Hills. He currently resides in Orange County with his wife of 20 years and their dog Cooper. Rick was a professional golfer for 12 years before he started in law enforcement, and he originally started with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. He spent 6 years there as a deputy and then joined the Hermosa Beach Police Department and has been working here since early 2020, as I said. He would eventually like to make sergeant, and I will say also, Rick will always hold a special place in my heart because he was the first officer I had the privilege of swearing in as the chief of police here in Hermosa Beach. And I also consistently remind him that I have more time at the police department than he does by just a few months, but it's fun to say that anyway. So Rick, thank you for being here. Since you showed your face, any comments or?
Sorry about that. No, Chief, it's a pleasure to work for you, sir, and I look forward to continue working in Hermosa Beach.
Thank you, Rick. All right, next is Dalton Blumenfeld. Dalton was hired around November of 2020. He was born and raised in Los Angeles. When he was growing up, he spent time helping at his family-owned coffee shop, Tanner's Coffee Company, which is in Playa del Rey and another one in Culver City. In June of 2015, Dalton was actually drafted out of Hamilton High School by Major League Baseball and was signed with the California Angels, where he spent 3 years with that organization. During his off season, he gave baseball lessons at his local Little League, and he also moved to the South Bay in 2017, where he currently gives baseball lessons to players of Hermosa, Redondo, and Manhattan Beach Little Leagues. He enjoys going to the beach, traveling and snowboarding, and I'm really impressed by the fact that he started his college education in 2018, recently obtained his associate's degree in criminal justice, and he's still working towards a bachelor's degree in business management. He's currently working as a patrol officer, and his goals are to join the Detective Bureau one day and to earn the MAD Award, which I previously mentioned. I will also just add a personal comment. You can't really tell by looking at Dalton on the screen, but he's a big guy. And we have a self-defense, weaponless defense training class that we do quite often at the police department. And somehow I always get paired with him. So I know Dalton very, very intimately, and I usually feel it for about a week after working out with him, but he's a great asset to our police department. Dalton, any words for the wise?
Hello, everyone. I love Hermosa Beach. I didn't really know about it before I moved to the South Bay, but it's definitely the best little beach city.
Thank you very much, Dalton. Appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
Next is Keaton Dadigan. Keaton is the first of 5 officers I'll be introducing that all started essentially the same time, went through the academy together, and recently all 5 completed their training program. So Keaton was hired in August. Well, he actually started working out with the police department in August of 21. He was born and raised in Ventura, California. He received his associate's degree in Santa Barbara, California, and then received his bachelor's degree in sociology and criminology from the University of Cincinnati, Ohio. Growing up, he was a swimmer and a water polo player, and he previously worked for the state of California as an ocean lifeguard. covering Ventura and Santa Barbara area coastline. Keaton left the State Park Service after 5 years, and his biggest accomplishment during that time was designing the field training program for the new lifeguards in the Channel Coast District. Keaton began his involvement in law enforcement in 2015 when he started working for Ventura Police Department, where he worked several civilian positions throughout the department. He earned the department's Crime Fighter Award from the Ventura Police Chief in April of 2020. And while Keaton was attending the Rio Hondo Police Academy, he was elected to be part of the leadership team by his peers. He graduated from the academy in August, and his goals are to become a motor officer and also specialize in DUI enforcement. He also wants to go to school one day to be a DRE, which is a drug recognition expert, which is an extremely intense training program to help identify the symptoms of people who are under the influence of narcotics. He currently lives in Redondo Beach with his roommates and enjoys going to the beach and visiting with his family in his off time. Keaton actually has a very unique thing. He is the first person I've ever heard of that had to miss a couple days of work because of an injury where he was bitten by his roommate's dog. He's better now, but that was a pretty scary situation actually. So I don't see Keaton's face on there. Keaton, oh, there you are. Okay, he's in the room with everybody else. Keaton, anything you want to say?
Thank you for the introduction, Chief. Currently on patrol, so I'm here at the station, but really happy to work for Hermosa Beach. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. And it looks like he's joined by several of his classmates there. So next, who's also in the room with him is Officer Stephanie De Andrade. She was of the same academy class. She grew up in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. She played volleyball for many years there, and she graduated university with a Bachelor of Science in Physical Education. She is trilingual, speaking English, Portuguese, and Spanish. She's worked as a physical therapist assistant for 6 years before joining the Hermosa Beach Police Department. Her dad is also a police officer and actually was a chief of police and inspired her to follow his steps in serving the community as a law enforcement officer, and his service was in Brazil. Stephanie shared a unique story with me that I think is worth repeating, and that is when she came to California for the first time. She got off the plane at LAX, was immediately taken to breakfast in Hermosa Beach. And while she was sitting at the table, she saw a police car drive by on the beach, a Hermosa Beach police car, and told the person she was with that one day she was going to be a Hermosa Beach police officer. So it's great to know that she's able to fulfill that dream, and she's here and doing great. So Stephanie, any comments?
Thank you, Chief, for the words. Just want to say I'm very thankful to be here, and I'm glad I got to work for Hermosa Beach and I got to achieve my dream.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. All right, so next is Kevin Jones. Kevin Jones was part of their class also. He was born in the South Bay. He's lived there most of his life. Throughout high school, he played lacrosse, and after school, he moved to Denver and worked for 2 years as an EMT. Officer Jones is extremely excited to pursue his career at the Hermosa Beach Police Department, and he also enjoys his hobbies, which include fly fishing, camping, and golf. He is actually a second-generation Hermosa Beach police officer following the footsteps of his father who worked here. He is known for a couple of things at the police department. One is, I believe he is the tallest officer on our police department now. And he's also famous for, on social media, for his possum wrangling, when he had to take an angry possum from a local business into custody after it had triggered an alarm off duty, or after hours. So Kevin, anything you want to say while you're on screen?
No, I just want to say thank you, Chief, and I'm really excited to work in Hermosa Beach, and that's about it.
Thank you very much, Kevin. All right, next is Officer Ryan Mcbride. He is from Northridge, California, and he attended Granada Hills Charter High School, where he played baseball all 4 years. He then transferred to Los Angeles Mission College, where he played baseball for 2 years. And from there he transferred to California State University Northridge, where he received a bachelor's degree in financial planning. He was hired by Hermosa Beach Police Department at the beginning of 2021 and also attended the same classes everybody else I just introduced. He has a goal for to work in the Detective Bureau, and Ryan was recently recognized, and you saw his picture on the front of some of the local papers for his support in the Santa Sleigh Ride event, where he toured the city with Santa and participated as one of Santa's helpers on an electric bicycle. So Ryan, thank you. Anything you want to say?
Thank you, Chief, for having me. I'm excited for work for our.
All right. Thank you very much, Ryan. Appreciate it. And last but not least, we got Officer Luis Panetta, who is also in the room with the other two. Officer Panetta was born and raised in the Crenshaw District in Los Angeles. He graduated from Crenshaw High School in 2007, and in 2011 earned his bachelor's in criminology, law, and society from UC Irvine. After the undergrad, Luis entered the parking industry, where he eventually became the parking operations manager at LA Live. His duties included managing over 100 employees and overseeing the parking operations at the 3 hotels on campus, as well as Staples Center. In 2016, he was actually hired as a police services officer by Hermosa Beach Police Department. And during his time as the PSO, he was a training officer, assisted with our ALPR program, which is the Automated License Plate Reader program, the Pink Patch program, the Citizens Police Academy, and our social media team. In 2020, he earned his master's in executive police administration from Arizona State University. And I should note he did that while working full-time at the police department. Officer Panetta completed his field training earlier this year, and he's doing really well as a patrol officer. His long-term goals are to become a detective and eventually promote up the ranks. Luis is a main contributor on our social media team, and he consistently keeps up with the best ways to connect our police department to the community through the creative and thoughtful social media stories. So if you follow our social media, and this is the plug for everybody to follow our social media, and you see something on there that makes you laugh, chances are Luis had something to do with it. So we appreciate the additional effort that he's making in that area. Luis, anything you want to add?
Thank you, Chief. I've had a great time here the last 6 years, and I'm looking forward for more years here in Hermosa. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all of you. So Mayor Pro Tem, that's everybody I have to introduce tonight. We have one more community service officer who was not able to make it. We will bring her back at a later date to introduce her as well.
Fantastic, Chief. Thank you. Wow. Quite an impressive lineup. Any words from my colleagues?
Mayor Pro Tem, can we also have the officers go back on camera so
Oh, yes.
we can hear the comments and folks that are watching can get a glimpse of all of them together?
That's a great idea. Thank you. All right.
Mayor Pro Tem, I was just going to echo your comments. Welcome, all of you. It's great to have dedicated professionals like yourself continuing to elevate the level of service and effectiveness that we provide to the city. So we look forward to seeing you out and about at City Hall and otherwise. Thanks for being here. Thanks for your hard work. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you again, Chief, and on behalf of Mayor DeToy, again, I'd just like to thank you for what you do for our city, and you hit a grand slam with these recruits. Smart, athletic, and were there some age requirements? Because there's some awfully looking young recruits there, so.
I think we're just getting older.
I think so. Wow. But thank you all for stepping up and for your willingness to serve. I think the baseball player, I'm sorry, you were, I think it was
We've got a couple.
Keaton. I think it was Keaton who just said he loves it here and it is indeed the best beach city, and he realized and recognized that early on. So thank you for realizing that. Thank you for your willingness to serve, and welcome to the team. And with that, I will turn it back over to Madam City Manager. What is next?
Item 7, Proclamations presentations. Item D, Proclamation declaring March 2022 as Women's History Month and March 8th, 2022 as International Women's Day.
All righty, and I think we have a proclamation to present. Talk about a powerhouse group here. Come on, come all, sure. Come on up. That's right. Good evening, ladies. Oh, sorry.
Right here, stay right here.
I am honored to be among such an august group, so thank you all for being here. Declaring March 2022 as Women's History Month and March 8th, 2022 as International Women's Day. Whereas women have influenced and advanced every facet of American life and culture. The strength, ingenuity, and spirit of our female leaders, innovators, and pioneers shape our nation's character, government, industry, families, and communities. And whereas, during Women's History Month, we honor the women who have changed our community, our nation, and the world. In 1981, Congress, smartly, established National Women's History Week to annually commemorate women the second week in March. In 1987, Congress expanded the week to a month, and every year since has passed a resolution, and the President has issued a proclamation designating March Women's History Month. And whereas March 8th, 2022 is International Women's Day 2022, and the theme is Break the Bias. Whether deliberate or unconscious, bias makes it difficult for women to move ahead. International Women's Day is a global day celebrating the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women. International Women's Day has been observed since 1911. And whereas the city of Hermosa Beach celebrates events highlighting the work and advancement of women within our community.
Check on two.
Check, check, check. Am I good? Thank you, sir. Whereas the city of Hermosa Beach celebrates events highlighting the work and advancement of women within our community as Hermosa celebrations. An equal world is an enabled world, and collectively, each one of us can help create a gender equal world. Now, therefore, Michael DeToy, mayor of the city of Hermosa Beach, California, on behalf of the entire city council, do hereby honor Women's History Month and International Women's Day with special recognition of the 100th anniversary of the Women's Club of Hermosa Beach. We extend to you our sincerest thanks and appreciation for continuing to expand opportunities for women in today's society and for your commitment to supporting the next generation of female trailblazers. Thank you all very much.
Everybody over here and turn around and face Ann.
Okay. Let's go over here.
Mayor
Pro.
Mayor, are you going to be in the middle here? You're going to be in the middle?
Well, you are the roses amongst the thorn here, right?
I'm the president, so
That's
I'll help
right.
you hold.
You hold that.
All right, and
Thank
I
you
better
so
stand
much.
sideways.
Is this okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Stand sideways, you look at the camera, right? Of course, we have to look at the
Good?
Okay.
Thank you
so
all.
much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much for
very
being here.
much.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you.
We have our little
You
invitation.
continue to inspire.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now? Okay, you have your glass?
Grab the one on the table right there.
I'll hold the glass.
All right.
Okay. All righty. Thank you, ladies. I think we have President Akamoto, who's going to
I am. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the council, City Manager Suja Lowenthal. So I'm going to give a little bit of history and some information about what's happening this month, but I'm honored to be standing here next to Nancy Locke, who is the president of the Women's Club of Hermosa Beach. We're celebrating the 100 years. So I wanted to give you a little bit of history. Thanks to Jamie at the Historical Society, she gave me some history on women, particularly women in business, in the history of Hermosa Beach. So I'm going to read from my phone here. So first off, a women's club, not ours, I don't believe, we can't connect them, but was started by Eliza Gilhooly, who was an Irish immigrant, perfect timing this month, that worked for a doctor, saved her pennies, and bought a beachfront property. Eliza started one of the earliest working girls clubs, a safe place for single women to stay at during their travels in California, in Hermosa before World War I. Eliza's cottage was located at 3323 Hermosa Avenue, and it attracted many women from LA who wanted to visit Hermosa for vacation. The accommodations were $1 per night and featured straw, pallets for mattresses, beach chairs, and a kitchen table for the ladies to cook their own meals. She dedicated this home to the YMCA in 1913 before her death in 1915. This cottage remained open until 1941. So with a little bit of history with that, I've had the pleasure of being both a board member of the Women's Club of Hermosa Beach, I'm the treasurer, and the founding leader of the Hermosa Circle, a women in business effort umbrellaed by the chamber, but led by amazing women in this community, seated back here somewhere, there they are. Everybody here is seeking to do good and connect with their business talents as well as community efforts. We're lucky to have women from both organizations here with us tonight. So let me tell you a little bit about the events happening this month to celebrate women in Hermosa. Now, it began this weekend until March 27th. At Shockbox, there's an exhibit called No Man's Land, and it features art by women. There's a lot of emotion and oomph behind all of the exhibits, so I encourage folks to go see it. On March 16th, the Hermosa Circle, Women in Wellness event, a lunch and learn event at Decadence, a woman-owned business. On March 24th, our Women's Club 100-year celebration at the Hermosa Beach Historical Society. Everybody here is invited. You got a little glass in front of you tonight. We're looking forward to celebrating with you all then that night. And then March 27th, another Hermosa Circle Stronger Together concert and silent auction, free for all to attend, at Patrick Malloy's, where we will have all talented women singers, and Patrick Malloy's is also co-woman owned. So we're very excited, and I'll leave you today with just another small bit of history. Sarah Alice Bean was one of the first single women to arrive in Hermosa Beach in 1901 from New York. She had no children, no husband, and was around for 50 years. And was around 50 years old. She became the first postmistress of Hermosa Beach on October 6, 1903, and moved into the post office at the Pavilion, the main structure the city had at the time. She later built her own post office. Think about that at the time. That's a big deal. She later built her own post office. She later became a merchant of real estate. She started the original Ocean View Sunday school classes. This was later discouraged by the school district, but a local pastor encouraged her to ask local developers to donate land for the church. The request was granted. Burbank and Baker donated 2 lots at the southwest corner of Manhattan Ave and 14th. If you're thinking about it, yes, that's the connection. And a new building was dedicated July 11th, 1909, just 2 years after our founding. The congregation became St. Cross, the first church in Hermosa Beach. Sarah passed away in 1935 at the age of 84 and was hailed the mother of the community and the mother of St. Cross. So with that, happy Women's Day to you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you to all the other, thank you to everyone else from the Women's Club. That was wonderful. Thank you. Madam City Clerk, what is next?
Item 8, City Manager Report, led by City Manager Suja Lowenthal.
Good evening, Madam City Manager.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the council. Before I provide my update, I did want to just mention that we had some technical difficulties earlier this evening, and we may not have been fully audible when we conducted roll call. So I just wanted to confirm for everyone that we do have 4 members of the council. We have everyone here except for Mayor Mike Detoy, who will join us shortly.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So I'd like to welcome our new city clerk. We want to officially welcome her, Myra Maravilla, tonight. She's been with us since February 9th, and this is her first official city council meeting, although you may have seen her at last week's revenue study session. Myra holds a master's degree in public administration and a certified municipal clerk designation from the International Institute of Municipal Clerks. For 5 years, she served as the City of Long Beach's city clerk specialist and has been engaged in public service for more than a decade. Her professional experience includes working with the Long Beach Community College District, the City of Hawaiian Gardens, and ABC Unified School District. She also served as a Hawaiian Gardens council member since 2015 and served as mayor in 2018 and 2019. She resigned from her elected role to join the City of Hermosa Beach. Susan Morrow, who has served as our interim city clerk since Eddie Sarmiento departed in November to take another city clerk position closer to home, will continue to provide city clerk services at our meetings as well. I'd also like to provide an update on our employee recruitment. The Hermosa is Hiring campaign is going strong. I hope folks have checked us out on social media and LinkedIn. With the help of NeoGov, our new online recruitment system, we were able to run over 24 recruitments simultaneously. It has been an absolute game changer for us here in Hermosa Beach. Prior to implementing NeoGov, we received applications only by email or mail or walk-ins. Presently, we are actively accepting applications for 12 openings, including our next community development director. In the past month, we've hired 6 people into permanent positions in our organization, including new city clerk Myra Maravilla, senior account clerk Liz Perez, building inspector Jose Murillo, and 3 assistant engineers. Those engineers include Jasmine Lopez, our second female civil engineer in city history, and Johnny Pasquale, who joined us as a college intern 3 years ago. In addition, the city has been aggressively recruiting new police officers. You heard from Chief Lebaron introducing our new officers. We've attracted a total of 12 new police recruits since 2020, when the City Council voted to substantially increase police officers' pay, and since we established a bonus program to help with recruitment. The officers that Chief Lebaron introduced earlier this evening are among them. We are also testing every 3 months and have streamlined the background checks. Our next test for police recruits will be in April. We are offering sign-on bonus program for police recruits that pay up to $30,000 to entry-level and pre-service recruits who join the Hermosa Beach Police Department and stay. The bonus program also pays up to $40,000 to laterals, which are qualified officers from police or sheriff's departments who join Hermosa Beach Police Department and stay. We look forward to making additional announcements in the near future as we move through the hiring process. For more information, I encourage everyone to visit hermosabeach.gov/jobs. I'd also like to provide an update on our beach access mats. I want to thank our volunteers, and before I turn it over to our Public Works Director, Joe San Clemente, to provide a few updates, I wanted to take a moment to thank the many community members who have volunteered to sweep sand off the beach access path over the last 2 years. 69 people signed up to help out. That is incredibly encouraging to all of us to see the level of commitment this community has to helping others. I want to thank all the volunteers on behalf of all of us here at the City of Hermosa Beach. Joe, would you kindly join us and provide us your updates?
Thank you, Madam City Manager. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. I just want to provide a couple updates for Hermosa Avenue and on the beach mats, as the City Manager mentioned. And I want to discuss staff efforts to enhance pedestrian safety and traffic safety along Hermosa Avenue. I know we've received some questions and comments about posted speed limits along the roadway, which currently vary between 25 and 30 miles an hour. We have been exploring a variety of options, but at this time we cannot reduce the posted speed limits any further. However, we are closely monitoring recent changes to the law as a result of Assembly Bill 43, which in the future would allow cities to further reduce speed limits, although these changes are not expected to go in effect until June of 2024. In the meantime, staff is advancing design of safety enhancements along Hermosa Avenue as part of Capital Improvement Project CIP number 193, Pedestrian Crossing Safety Enhancements. And this would include installing rectangular rapid flashing beacons at uncontrolled marked crosswalks. Those are the flashing signs throughout the city, and other measures such as curb extensions and signage and marking enhancements. In those locations would include Hermosa at 4th, 6th, 19th, 24th, and 25th Street. Staff is currently evaluating options to deploy safety measures at 6th Street as a first phase to test pavement marking and signage reconfigurations. These changes are currently under review by Coastal Commission, but we anticipate installation by summer. Improvements at the other locations would follow after we test some of these measures by early 2023. I also did want to provide a brief update on CIP 549, Temporary Beach Access Route Pilot Expansion. To make the beach more accessible for all users, the city has installed the new Moby mats at 2nd Street. And will begin installation of Moby mats at 22nd Street later this week. The 2nd Street mats stretch about 300 feet, and they have an intersecting mat at the end, which creates a T. I know that there was some really strong wind over the weekend, which did cause some sand to come over the mats, and our team is scheduled to go out tomorrow to clear the sand from the mat on 2nd Street tomorrow. The 22nd Street mat will extend about 275 feet, and our team will begin rolling that out later this week. All of the lengths were determined by certified access specialists, and the city will be installing additional accessible path improvements in the near future. This will include new concrete work near the beginning of each of the 3 locations to improve the transition between the existing concrete pads and where the mat begins. This work is also subject to approval by Coastal, and we will proceed with that work as soon as we have approvals, and we're hoping by the summer. At that time, we'll also be making curb ramp improvements, installing 2 new accessible parking spaces, 1 each at 2nd Street and 22nd Street. And with that, if there are any questions, I'll turn it back to the City Manager.
Thank you, Joe. And I'd like to also call on Chief Lebaron to provide his update.
Thank you very much, Madam City Manager. Good evening once again, Mayor Pro Tem Jackson and members of City Council. So I want to start by just providing a couple additional updates to the recruitment efforts. I know I just talked about those that we've hired, but our work doesn't stop there. We're continuing to recruit, and specific to the police department, there are several positions we're recruiting for. I want to first thank our Human Resources Department. Through their help and under the direction of our city manager, we've transitioned to, across the city, a more streamlined online process for applicants to submit resumes. That's allowed us to receive the resumes and applications quicker, which allows us to go after and schedule the testing processes much sooner and more comprehensively. We're currently recruiting for several positions. One is police officer recruits as well as laterals. We're recruiting for community services officers, police service officers, and management analyst position. So in the area of the police officer position, we currently have several lateral and police recruit candidates in the backgrounds. And this is something that takes a little bit of time. We're waiting for their paperwork to be completed. Some of them are already with the background investigator. And if we can get those back in time, and if they meet the criteria, we have an academy class scheduled for April, and we will have any eligible candidate in that class. As City Manager Lowenthal also mentioned, we continue to run police recruit tests every 3 months, and the next one is in April. So if anybody is listening and they're interested in being a police officer, with Hermosa Beach. Turn in your application and you will hear from us very quickly. The community service officer position is also being recruited. We offered a written test last week. And when we did, we had 43 total candidates that applied, 23 RSVP'd that they wanted to take the test. 15 showed up and 11 of those candidates passed, and we'll move on to the oral interview panel. So that may seem like a big drop off, but actually that's a really good number of candidates for the 1 or 2 open positions that we're going to have. It'll give us some really good candidates to choose from. And then our management analyst position is one that's been vacant for a little while, and that's that the applications for that one closed in February, on February 28th. We had about 50 applicants turn in resumes, and we'll be working with the city manager's office to select somebody for that position. So now that I've talked about that, I do want to go into my normal update on crime and some of the trends and things that we're seeing in the area. I recognize it's been a month since I last reported to you, but unfortunately the crime trends do remain the same. They're specific to theft-related crimes, and people that commit these crimes have been targeting the secured parking garages as well as the unlocked vehicles inside those garages. And they're really looking to steal anything left inside of cars, as well as bicycles that might be parked and even secured underneath the parking garages. We have also noticed that catalytic converters are definitely back on the menu for thieves, and we've seen them be a target in the last couple of weeks as well. I do want to share some positive news, though, about some of the cases we're working that involve thefts at apartment complexes, as well as targeting the bicycle thieves. So in the past updates, I actually discussed with council the challenges that officers face when a business or even an individual victim is not willing to cooperate with our investigation. Many times they don't want to press charges, or they don't want to move forward as a witness. However, that was not the case in a recent investigation that we conducted. We were informed about a couple separate crimes that took place at multi-unit housing complexes in the city. And these crimes were targeting household items as well as catalytic converters that were stolen from cars. In both cases, we were very fortunate to have the cooperation and the quick response from the management or the HOA groups of those units. Through the use of the evidence that they provided us, the detectives were able to quickly identify a suspect, and the investigation led to the arrest of this suspect. And we learned that when he was arrested, he was on PRCS, which is post-release community supervision, and he had prior felony convictions, including attempt murder and assault with a deadly weapon. So detectives, as well as patrol officers, were able to locate the suspect in Orange County and arrest him. They arrested another person who was with him, a female who had a no bail warrant for unrelated crimes, and property that was taken during those crimes was recovered to our victims here in Hermosa Beach. So that one suspect and multiple locations was responsible for 4 different reports that we had received of theft. We're also seeing the bicycles being stolen at a high frequency. We continue to do everything we can to make an impact in this area. And just last night, as a matter of fact, our officers conducted a covert bicycle sting operation. And as part of our operation, it didn't take long, but a suspect stole a bicycle around 8:30 p.m. and he was immediately arrested. Due to the cost of the bicycle that this person stole, the charges were actually elevated to a felony, and they will be presented to the district attorney's office for filing. The suspect arrested in this case is a person who frequents Hermosa Beach and is known to commit these sorts of crimes. So we were very happy that we were able to get this person in custody, and he's being held without bail because of his prior arrests. The bail formula allows us to do that. So this is not somebody who is walking right out and going back on the street. After he was processed, a short time later, detectives and officers were back to work with this covert operation. And around 4:30 this morning, another suspect was arrested for felony bike theft as part of the same operation. So what we're seeing is that any bicycle left out in the open is a potential target for bike thieves, even if it's locked. The type of lock being used does matter. So we encourage the community to make sure that your locks are not able to be cut with bolt cutters And whenever possible, keep the bike secured inside where only you would have access to it. The last thing I want to talk about is some phone and email scams that we are seeing that concern us. Suspects continue to target unsuspecting victims who are many times elderly or people on a fixed income. The police department wants to remind its residents to be vigilant before making any unusual or unplanned payments to any services that claims to be the IRS or utility companies or Amazon or Apple or eBay. These are the specific places that we're seeing this fraud take place. Also, if you're listening, talk about these scams with your elderly neighbors and your relatives. Whenever possible, try and create a system to ensure that any financial transactions that your elderly friends or relatives are involved in are reviewed by another person before taking place. And any representatives, just know that any representatives asking for payment with gift cards, Apple cards, Green Dot, Western Union are potentially scammers and should be seen with a lot of suspicion. Residents should also be wary about using unsolicited links from services to log into personal accounts, because a lot of times these links are used to capture login and personal information, and they're very, very difficult to track back to the suspect once that information is out there. So, Mayor Pro Tem Jackson, with that, I conclude my report and I stand ready for any questions that you or council may have.
Thank you, Chief. I will look to my colleagues. Councilmember Campbell.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Chief, thank you for all of that information. I have one question about the bike thefts. Is it all traditional bicycles, or are some of them e-bikes? And I don't know, I don't have an e-bike, so I don't know how hard or easy they might be to run off with. Thank you.
Thanks, Councilmember Campbell. The answer is both. And specifically to the cases I talked about last night and the arrest we made, the reason they rose to a felony is because of their cost, because they were e-bikes. So we're definitely seeing those targeted even more because of the resale value.
Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you, Chief. Appreciate all your efforts, and thanks for being out there fighting the good fight.
And that's it for our report.
All right, any questions of Madam City Manager, anyone? All right, thank you kindly, ma'am. I will go back to our Madam City Clerk. What is next?
Item 9, public participation, oral and written communications from the public. This is a time for members of the public to address the City Council on any items within the Council's jurisdiction, not on this agenda or items on this agenda. Please note that the City Council does not engage in a dialogue during public comment, and each speaker is limited up to 3 minutes. And as a reminder, if you are joining the meeting by phone, please remember to dial *9 to raise your virtual hand and dial *6 in order to unmute yourself. Participants joining by internet, please remember to unmute and please state your name for the record before starting your comment. And it looks like the first person that we have, do we have anybody in person at the chamber that would like to speak? Okay, go ahead and come up and state your name. And
I'd just like to make a quick reminder that public comment on public hearing items or municipal matter items may be provided during the general public participation period or when the matter is heard, but not both. With that, thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Casey McCrossin. I am the president of Hermosa Circle, so thank you all so much for having us here. So I just wanted to give us just a couple of more updates on our 2 events that we are having. On March 16th, our Lunch and Learn is going to be at Decadence from 12 o'clock to 1:30, and it is Women in Wellness. We have functional medicine doctor and chiropractor Dr. Madeline, who owns her own company, Health Movement. And she is going to speak about hormones. And so any kind of toxic products that we use, maybe that are causing our hormones to be imbalanced. So really just some good ideas and solutions for that. And then also we have our event at the end of the month at March 27th, Stronger Together at Patrick Malloy's, and that is going to be from 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock, where we have all female artists that are going to be performing for you for free. The 2 charities that we are going to be holding for a silent auction will be South Bay Center for Cancer and also Community's Child in Lomita, from Lomita, California. So those are the two events that we would like to have. All of you are welcome to join us. Thank you so much for having us here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam City Manager, do we have anybody else?
Yes, come on up. Please state your name for the record.
Me again, Jessica Accomando with the Hermosa Beach Chamber of Commerce. I'm sorry to consume so much of your time today. It's just a lot going on this month. So right now, I just wanted to remind everybody what Mayor Pro Tem Jackson already commented on, that the parade is this weekend. We're very excited to bring this tradition back. It's going to be a fun-filled parade. We've got some surprises in store. We also have the extra family activities on Pier Plaza, some selfie stations, caricatures, and performing artists from the South Bay Music Connection, which is your local youth talent who likes to perform after they've mastered their art. And so we're excited to welcome them. I want to take an opportunity also to remind everybody that there's a fantastic event after the parade. So you come out, you enjoy the parade, maybe have some lunch and a cocktail or not. It's up to you. Then please come join us for the Water and Wood show at Resin Art Gallery. It is a annual tradition there. They have dozens of amazing artists displaying their art there. The Chamber is proud to co-sponsor and present this event. They're doing incredible things over there. You're probably familiar with Resin because of the students and the youth that display there, but actually this show also includes a bunch of local talented adults that you know. So it is a great mix and it should be a great evening, and so I invite you over to Resin Gallery. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, who's next?
Looks like we have one more person, or possibly more. You can come on up and please state your name for the record. Thank you.
Good evening.
Hi, my name is Betsy Ryan. I'm from 95 17th Street. I have some pictures that Ann put up. I'll start while she's looking for the pictures. I came because I read in the Easy Reader, and I have the pictures from the Easy Reader, so shout out to the Easy Reader. But two Hermosa Beach veteran police officers were placed on administrative leave last week for their failure to comply with the city's COVID-19 protocol. The city refused to accept their religious exemptions, accept or respect their religious exemptions pertaining to the COVID-19 vaccine. The police officers that I'm talking about, here's one of their pictures. That is Jonathan Cruz. He's a 14-year veteran. He's a former Marine. His wife is a nurse. They have a strong family. And he's a field training officer, which means he actually trains other officers. The other officer is Wayne Lewis, and he's got 21 years of experience as a veteran police officer, plus the training he brought with him when he came to Hermosa. Do you want to put his picture up? Ann put up 4 pictures. So between the two of these police officers, they've got 40 years experience. So these two police officers have more experience, one with 21 years and one with 14 years than our city manager and every single one of the council members. They have been here supporting our community, building it, strengthening it, and keeping it safe. So when we talk about keep Hermosa, Hermosa, we need to keep these two police officers. So both of these officers, they have what's called institutional knowledge. Oh, there's the other guy. Institutional knowledge is something that you can't get from a new recruit. Institutional knowledge is this vast experience that it comes from your experience where you know to de-accelerate. So for instance—
30 seconds left.
Wait, you didn't show my pictures. You know how to de-accelerate as opposed to accelerate the situation. That means that you're not new, you're not going to get nervous, and you're not going to pull your gun, you're not going to punch somebody. And in a time of George Floyd, I think it would save us a lot of money on lawsuits. We have their experience. They're a tremendous asset. So these guys worked during the pandemic.
The 3 minutes are up. Thank you.
No, I didn't have enough time, and this is really important. I'm going to finish this. These officers worked for
Ms.
two.
Ryan, you have 3 minutes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
You didn't put my pictures up. I was interrupted the whole time. Does this count? Is this?
If you can you wrap it up in 10, 15 seconds, Ms. Ryan?
Okay. I just want to say that the city manager is offering $40,000 signing bonus to new officers, $40,000 for one for lateral and $40,000 for lateral and $30,000 for bonus hires. Meanwhile, we're letting these guys go. You guys voted that they would have a religious exemption, and that exemption needs to be honored, and we need to take that $70,000 that you're going to waste and also expose us to liabilities and fix our sidewalks and potholes.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan. We appreciate your comments this evening.
Do we have any other comments from the chamber? Seeing none, we're going to promote Trent so that he can give his testimony. Trent, you will have 3 minutes. Your time has just started, Trent.
Okay, good. Hi, City Council. Okay, a few subjects tonight. First of all, on Ukraine, one of the things that is not talked a lot about in this country is the subject of the Holodomor, which is when Joseph Stalin starved 10 million people in 1932 and 1933 in Ukraine. And before that, he did it as a precursor to World War I. But there's bad blood in Ukraine, and this is going to get worse. And the people there are going to turn very mean. I like to think of it as becoming Josie Wales, getting mad dog mean, because without it, you neither win nor live. So it's very serious, and it's best to pay attention and please pray for our president, because I think he needs prayers. And this kind of leads me to COVID, and it's supposed to be ending on March 11th, yet, we're still talking about it, and there's still a lot of mask wearing going on. I really think we've done a big disservice in many, many ways over the 2 years to our nation and to the public and to the youth especially. And even now, when you go into the stores, 90% of the people in there are just look petrified. They still have their mask on, even though the science doesn't support it. And a lot of it is just flat out fear. And what Betsy just talked about, she's absolutely right. And it's embarrassing. And it's really something that you look what's going on in the world now, and you look at the free countries, and you look at the other countries that are taking over and what they're doing, and even things that's going on in Canada, what they did. And, I stand up to stuff. I can't stand it being pushed around. And now I'm sharing myself in government. And this is how I am. And I want you guys to be independent and strong. And so that's what I'm looking for. And I never saw any talking back about the COVID policy. And I was pushed on that, and I wished you would have. And what's Ukraine going back there? The communists starved the Ukrainians, starved them to death by taking all their wheat by guns. And history repeats itself. And I'm telling you, this is going to get a lot worse before it gets better. But I do want to end on a good note tonight, and I'm probably coming up to my minute or my 30 seconds. I don't have time really. I wanted to do a little ditty, but I won't. But on Women's History and International Women's Day, I just wanted to recognize that, because I love women, and without women, I wouldn't be here. And I love women a lot more than men.
Your time is up. Your time is up. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Larson. Madam City Clerk.
Travis Hernandez is next.
Mr. Hernandez.
Travis, you will have 3 minutes for your public comment.
everybody. Sorry about that, a little technical difficulty. My name is Travis Hernandez. I'm the new interim manager for the Hermosa Beach Library. I just want to take this chance to say hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. We have changed our hours a little. We're now open from noon to 8 on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then Thursday through Saturday, we're open 10 to 6. We have plenty of virtual programming out there for everybody. Unfortunately, we don't have any in-person programming right now, but check the website. We got lots of stuff going on there. Also want to let everybody know that this Thursday, we are actually closed for a staff training day. But other than that, thank you everybody for having me, and I hope to be here to serve Hermosa Beach. And that's my time.
Thank you, Travis, and welcome to Hermosa Beach. Madam City Clerk.
Next, it looks like we have Kent. Kent, we're going to give you the opportunity to speak for 3 minutes. We will give you a reminder at 30 seconds. Thank you.
Can you hear me and see me?
Yes.
Please don't start the comment until you can confirm that you can hear me and see the time clock until you can hear me and see me.
We can hear you and see you. Thank you.
Great, let's go, let's go. First of all, the way Betsy Ryan was treated just now was just reprehensible. I mean, here's a pillar of the community and a dear woman, and you just cut her off like nobody's business. Second of all, thank you, police officers. I have many police officers in my family, and all of you, every one of you is welcome at my home any day on Golden Avenue. You know my address. All you have to do is look it up. There's always a coffee, a cappuccino, a soda, whatever. You want to come up to my house, you're here. Thirdly, the Zoom is just not working. It's like everything's like, you don't get to see what's going on. It's working on the YouTube, but it's on as far as the city side, nothing's working. You don't see anything. And lastly, thank you, Justin Massey, for supporting the blue with your blue mask on. And I don't know what you're suffering from. Obviously, there must be some disease that you're trying to protect the other people from in the city council, and I think that's admirable. And obviously, you're sending your message as a social justice warrior, and good for you. It's a funny view from my view. Lastly, if anybody in the city wants to see what's going on in this city, all you have to do is go to Advocates for Hermosa Beach, and you'll get a little snapshot. Hopefully Stacy put down her phone today, and she's kind of well known for texting and receiving messages during the thing. But thanks to all you guys. And Justin, thank you for the blue. You're wearing the mask. You're protecting the others from your whatever disease you happen to have right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Madam City Clerk, who's next?
Do we have anybody else who would like to make a public comment at this time? It looks like Matt McCool. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Jackson, City Council staff, Matt McCool. Before I begin, I just want to wish everybody a happy International Women's Day and share that one of my biggest heroes is a woman. It's Kellyanne Conway, who architected the greatest political upset in U.S. history. But after seeing the public comment tonight, I want to acknowledge Betsy Ryan as a hero. This is a woman who came in selflessly to go ahead and help support our police officers. She wasn't there for herself. And I think I have to echo what Mr. Ken Allen said, that was disrespectful how she was cut off. But the main thing is, I think our police officers' religious beliefs need to be supporting and not have them placed on administrative leave. And everything that Betsy Ryan said, I had to support. Now, the real reason why I called in is for official business. And I might struggle to get through this because I don't want to drop any F-bombs, because I became very enraged what happened during the last city council meeting, where Councilman Massey made some ill-advised statements that were false. This afternoon, I have sent him a cease and desist letter, and he wants to go ahead and violate that cease and desist letter. I will be filing a defamation lawsuit against him. The issue here is very simple, and it does not need to be convoluted. Lieutenant Landon Phillips, now the acting Captain acting Landon Phillips, has continued for years to make false statements about me. That is an absolute fact. It's absolutely irrefutable. I only filed a personnel complaint against him, 2 of them, at his request. That was not my doing. He refused to answer my questions, and he said, you need to file a personnel complaint. This is not an action of somebody who's innocent. This is the action of a guilty person. It's that simple. So let's go ahead and clear it out of the way. Yes, the city did hire an independent third-party investigator to do the investigation. No one's disputing that. I'm not disputing that. But the adjudication was not done by the third-party investigator. It was done by people within the city of Hermosa Beach who have a serious conflict of interest. That is like having a jury trial and you have the defense counsel render the verdict. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. Go ahead and do that. Now, I have sent in written correspondence, and this is the beauty about this, where I have been targeted as a liar, where my allegations against Lieutenant Phillips.
A kind
are
reminder
meritless.
that you have 30 seconds left.
Thank you. My allegations against acting Captain Phillips are meritless and baseless. I have submitted written correspondence with an email from Landon Phillips stating the police department does not have the records of investigation. So he is actually throwing you guys under the bus who have exonerated him. And the question still remains, where are the records of investigation from the case? Why were they destroyed? And it was to cover up police misconduct.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Good night. God bless.
Madam City Clerk, is there anybody left?
Do we have anybody else who would like to give a public comment at this time? You can raise your hand virtually. Seeing none, you can move on to the next item, written communication. So at this time, we can entertain a first and a second motion to receive and file the written communication, and then I'll go ahead and do a roll call vote.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I'll move to receive and file.
Second.
I have a second.
Councilmember Massey? Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Councilmember Armato?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Jackson?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. What is next, Madam City Clerk?
Item 10, City Council Member Comments. Council members may briefly respond to public comments, may ask a question for clarification, or make a brief announcement, report on his or her own activities or meetings attended.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll look to my colleagues. Councilmember Armato?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Just wanted to report to the public and my colleagues that I attended last week Contract City's Sacramento Legislative Tour. I serve as the co-chair of the Legislative Committee, so we had a great turnout. There were over 100 elected officials, city managers, that was pretty much it, in attendance. We had a host of state senators and assembly members that came to speak to us and with us. We had lively discussions with the speaker, Rendon, and then also our Attorney General. We talked about a host of issues, housing, homelessness, crime, specifically held a press conference as it relates to legislation, hopefully that will get some momentum around stealing catalytic converters and then street racing, which happens to be a problem in many of our surrounding communities and here in Hermosa as well. The liveliest of discussions surrounded housing elements and cities' attempts to comply and it getting kicked back to cities, and what is the Attorney General's office going to do with his newly formed housing strike team. And we were assured that as long as we're making a good faith effort, that they have no interest in coming after us. So I think that pretty much sums it up. And we got a lot of one-on-one time with our own Assembly Member Al Marisucci and our Senator Ben Allen. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Councilmember Armato. Turn to Dr. Campbell.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Jackson. I just want to report that we did have an Economic Development Committee meeting last night. I did not, however, bring my notes. I'm not used to coming to chambers, and so my tablet's at home. There were some substantive comments and updates that I'd like to share, and especially since Mayor DeToy is the other council member who serves on that committee, we will give a report of last night's meeting at the next meeting. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell. Councilmember Massey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to point out again that one of the commenters accused one of the captains in our police department of making false statements. And I just wanted to point out for the record that the commenter made a personnel complaint. It was fully investigated by the city, found to be without merit. So I don't know how many times we need to do this, but we'll continue to correct the record as necessary. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for that correction. Anybody have anything else? Thank you, colleagues. I will turn back to Madam City Clerk. What is next?
Item 10A, updates from City Council ad hoc subcommittees and standing committee delegates, alternates. And next, we will go to 11, consent calendar. For the consent calendar, council members may briefly, This is a time for the City Council to consider approval of the items on the consent calendar or pull any items for a separate discussion.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Any discussion on the consent calendar? Anybody wishing to pull in a particular item for separate discussion?
I'll move to approve, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Thank you, Councilmember Massey.
Councilmember Massey?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Councilmember Armato?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Jackson?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. And what is next, Madam City Clerk?
Next, you have item 14, municipal matters. A, mid-year budget review presented by Finance Director Vicky Copeland.
Good evening, Ms. Copeland.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and City Council, Madam City Manager. I'm happy to be here to present the mid-year review tonight. This is our review of the budget. We look at the 6-month point, which is, of course, as of December. We're looking at the items of estimated revenue, appropriations, and transfers to see if adjustments to the budget need to be made, as well as including actual fund balances from the previous year that are brought forward from last year. Mid-year focuses on how we're doing against our adopted budget. However, I have also included a comparison on page 2 of the report of how revenue is doing compared to the year before COVID, which is 2019. That doesn't translate well to a chart, but it won't fit on a slide. But we do have this summary that shows you that the change in revenue when you're looking at the mid-year versus the original budget is almost $5 million, 4.7. That's a change of 11.9%, which is a really healthy change. When you look at the change of our mid-year estimate over the 18-19 actual, it's 7.6. So that is great progress to be back almost at, a little bit over the level of before COVID, which was 18-19. Now, we could have lost ground a little bit in the 2 years that have ensued, but it's still very good progress, and I'm certainly happy to report that. Slide 3 is a snapshot of the largest 4 tax sources, which you're used to seeing. They comprise almost 70% of the total revenue. And the changes in these sources increased by almost 11%, which is also great news. We'll just hop ahead to slide 4 for a minute, and then we'll go back to slide 3. Slide 4 shows the change of 13.1%. Again, that's comparing these tax sources back to 2018-19, just to give you an idea of where we are at this time versus where we were before COVID. So again, good growth there. If you wouldn't mind going back to slide 3 now, I'll talk about each of these revenue sources in a little bit more detail. The overall property tax, this is all property taxes added together, is higher by 2%. I think the report says 3.8%, but that was a mistake. So just point that out to you. This is our most stable source of revenue. And of course, it's almost 50% of our revenue. The sales tax estimate is increasing by 27.4% over the original estimate, which is, again, wonderful news. It's based on the increase in sales from last year combined with, we only have 1 quarter of sales tax at this point. That shows on page 4 of the report, the change from the prior year is 10% and 2% over 2018-19. Again, those charts can't be up here, but have too many numbers on them. But in looking at the 1 quarter against the previous year's quarter, it's an 8% increase that's on the table on page 5 in your report. So again, very good news, progress overall on the sales tax. The largest group of sales tax producers is eating and drinking places, as is typical. And that for the first quarter remains to be the highest generator of sales at 33% of the total. Excuse me. And the revenue for that 1 quarter, which is July, August, and September, is 42% over the same quarter for the prior year. So even though it's only 1 quarter, if the restaurants can continue that trend, that would be terrific. The state and county pool also represents a large amount of our tax now, 20% of the total. And the revenue increased there from just 22%, but from the prior year, it was a larger increase of 78%. And of course, that's all the online buying that people are doing over the internet during this time. And we don't know, that may continue. I would expect that it would. The TOT is a huge comeback for the hotels. It's increasing, the estimate is increasing almost 1.7 million or 86%. And that's, we had a conservative budget estimate, which was based on an occupancy rate of 30%, which was what the occupancy was at the time. Occupancy is now, for the first half of this year, it's 78% compared to 31.9% for last year. And as well, the new estimate for mid-year is 10.4% higher than 18-19. So that really suggests, full recovery if the trend can continue. And I believe I mentioned the other night when we did the study session, we do have the 1 new hotel and the 5 short-term rentals in the commercial district with 10 total units, and we're now collecting TOT on that as well. The UUT, which has been flat for the last few years, is even up by 7%. Of course, that's because the largest increases are in the electric, water, and cable. And we put a pie chart on page 7 of the report for you there to show how those revenue sources break down. As reported at the revenue study session, the company that does our oversight and monitors our UUT payments is conducting audits of several streaming providers in order to apply the UUT to these services. So we will be giving you, as those negotiations continue, we will be giving you updates on that. So the following charts, 5 through 8, are, if you can move to the next slide. Thank you. And we already talked about this one. There you go. Thank you. these are just to look at. The order is a little strange, but I thought it was an interesting comparison to look at the revised budget, which is our beginning budget, the mid-year revision, and then where this is property tax, where it was in 2018-19. So as you would expect from property tax, that increases pretty well most years. So it's not that surprising. If you look at the next one, on the next slide, here's the sales tax. So there's what the budget was. Here's what our mid-year revision is, and that's how it compares to 2018-19, which is terrific. The next slide. This is the TOT, same thing. The estimate, conservative, based on the occupancy of 30 some odd %. Mid-year revision based on 78%. And then here's 2018 actual, and they're actually above that. So that's real progress. Okay, slide 8. Next slide, thank you. This is the UUT with the 7% increase. It shows that we are above with the mid-year revision. We're also above where we were in 2018-19. So those are all, I think, good examples of the progress that's been made. Next slide. Before I get to this, I want to, well, I'll wait till I can do this slide first. Sorry, lost my place there for a second. This is the other revenue besides the top revenue sources. Those are the ones on the first line that we just talked about. These are all the other sources of revenue. And I wasn't going to go through each one of them, but I did want to point out the third one down is licenses and permits. That increased by 37.6%. And the primary reason for that is the building permits. There's a lot of, I'm sure you've noticed, there's a lot of building activity going on. So that is well represented by that number. And then the service charges, which are the second from the bottom, increasing almost 20%. There is a list in the report of those, but primarily it's, the encroachment permits were reinstated recently. Plan check fees, which go along with the building permits, are higher. And then all of the parking meters, lots, the parking structure, those are all coming back. And then the contract recreational classes, because most of those, of course, were canceled, or a lot of them were during the COVID years. So it's making a real comeback too. So that's our general increase in the revenue, again, 11.9%. Also attachment to your report, I wasn't going to go through this individually. It's the list of appropriations that various departments are requesting at mid-year. But if you happen to have any questions on those, I'd be happy to answer them. I didn't do a slide or anything. There's too many to list. So we can go on. If there are no questions, we can go on to slide 10. Thank you. We always review at mid-year our progress toward our funding goals that have been set and are in our financial policies. We are recommending that you adjust 2 of these. The contingency balance is like our rainy day fund that we always want to keep at least 16% of the operating budget in this account. So the adjustment there in the recommended mid-year change column is only $239,000. So we're recommending that we use the funds that are left over and we transfer them into this contingency balance to keep that at 16%. And then the insurance fund has had some large payouts and the balance was down to almost $600,000. Of course, we haven't, during these last 2 years, we haven't replenished any of the goals due to the budget balancing that we were doing. But at this time, we're recommending that you bring that back up to our goal of $3 million, and that transfers the 2.4 million there that's shown. Next slide. The other 2 areas don't need much of an adjustment. They're a little bit under, but it's not really enough to make any difference. So this is our remaining fund balance. That's the revenue increase that you see there. We're taking off the appropriations total that is in your report, the 918,000. The transfer to the contingency rainy day fund, the transfer to the insurance fund. And then additionally, also during the COVID years, we have not made any contribution to the capital improvement fund, which really we don't have sources of money for the capital improvement fund other, of course, than grants, et cetera. So any funds that we have left at the end of the year, we transfer portions of those into the capital improvement fund. So we are recommending that we transfer almost $1.5 million in there because it got really low too because of the last, I think we appropriated money for Clark Building not too long ago. That was almost $800,000. So that balance had gotten down just from the decline during COVID. So those are the recommendations. We do have unspent funds from last year of 5.8 million, which sounds, of course, like a really big number. But when you consider that we had, salary savings due to leaves, retirements, resignations, and then we had increases in revenue above budget of about 7.8%. So those two factors together give us that balance. And of course, in addition to that, we're recommending that we put that money aside in the fund balance, and as we did for the last 2 years, and keep it for the 22-23 budget until we put that together and see what's needed. Then we would make a recommendation about it at that time. And of course, I think you will also remember that we did use $2.3 million in American Rescue funds to balance the budget this year. And we also have the other half of those funds, another 2.3 million set aside that will be available if we need it to balance the next year's budget. So as soon as we approve mid-year budget changes, we will begin work on the 22-23 budget. And we do have some meetings scheduled for that. April 21st is the next one, the CIP study session. June 2nd is the budget study session or workshop, we call it sometimes. And then budget adoption would be on June 14th, if possible. And then I believe you've canceled your second meeting in June. Excuse me. So if we didn't adopt it, then we could adopt it on July 12th, or you could have a special meeting in June if you really wanted to adopt it. But that concludes my report. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to address them.
Thank you, Vicky. Thank you to you and your staff for putting this staff report together. We know how much work goes into your efforts, so thank you very much. I will look to my colleagues to see if there are any questions. Dr. Campbell?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Jackson. Vicky, thank you to you and your staff. Feeling like Hermosa is pretty fortunate, all things considered, to be in the financial stable position that you are presenting. This is a partial update from the Economic Development Committee last night. I just wanted to share with my colleagues and anybody listening that as the comprehensive economic development plan is almost finalized, there have been some very specific priorities that will require a new CIP in order to initiate. So we had a conversation, and I had asked last night if any of those, because some of them are pretty hot priorities in the eyes of business owners and members of the community, whether any of them would be able to be considered for adding in this upcoming cycle, because it's pretty close arriving. So it's not completely clear if that's the case, but they were going to at least consider that, I believe is what we were told. They're going to try their best to bring those topics up and see where and when they can be added to the CIP program. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Councilmember Campbell. Councilmember Armato.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Just a quick question for you, Vicky. With the parking structure, we have arrangement with the county where Oops. Me? Oh. Okay. We have an arrangement with the county wherein, I don't know, I think we keep half the revenue, they keep half the revenue. It was for a term of years to help pay for the construction of the parking structure. And I'm thinking, if I'm remembering right, we're nearing the end of that. Can you give us an update on that?
I believe it's 27, that it ends. I'll double check that and let you know if that's not correct, but that is what I'm recalling. And we do split the revenue with them since they gave us the money to build the structure.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you,
You're
Mr. Mayor
welcome.
Pro Tem.
Thank you, Councilmember Amato. Any other questions? Seeing none? We'll open this up to public comment.
Yes, this is a time for members of the public to address the city council on this item only. Each speaker is limited up to 3 minutes. And as a reminder, if you are joining the meeting by phone, please remember to dial *9 to raise your virtual hand and dial *6 in order to unmute yourself. Participants joining by internet, please remember to unmute and please state your name for the record before starting your comment. Trent, it looks like you raised your hand. We will now give you 3 minutes to speak on this item with a 30-second reminder. You can begin when you're ready.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Vicky. I appreciate that. I really like seeing that we have additional money. It sounds like our comeback estimates were a little low. That's okay, but I'm going to talk to that in a second. But we have money and we need to spend that money. We need to spend that money on the people. There's things that we could do right away. Greenbelt. One of the things that didn't come up was that we could do a lot better job with wood chips. We do a lot better wood chips. Cedar bark makes really nice roads. And you might consider that, looking into really good wood chip exercising, using the green belt. That would help everybody. The more people out there using it, a lot of problems go away when there's more people out there using it. You know, one of the things about the numbers, you know, there's good growth, right? We have good growth, but I got to tell you, in the corporate world, just to make quota in sales, and I know a lot of people in a lot of different industries, it's like 18% growth. So really, our growth is really 6.1% shy of what it should be. And that, I think, leads to a lot of the great resignation going on out there because people are just like they can't do it anymore. But having said that, I'm glad to see it's coming back. And it's really good to see. So I guess then lastly, very important, no on the insurance fund. Do not fill that thing back up. It makes us too easy to cave and say, you know, the more money you have that's other people's, which is what this is, it just makes it too easy for our attorneys to say, you know what, there's a chance of losing here and we're exposed and could be really bad. And you sit around and you hand wring. But I don't think you should fill it up. You should take that money, roll the dice a little bit, and buy stuff for the parks and for the people, and fund the homeless removal. You know, I'm seeing less and less, and I like that, but they're still there. We all know it. It's going to be there for a long time. So we're going to need to fund that. Also, tree removal and tree trimming is another thing that shows. Painting shows. It's cheap. People can do it.
Kind reminder that you have 30 seconds left.
Science. All right, 30 seconds. I guess I'll let you go. Thanks, Vicky. Spend your money. We have 5.8 million on the sidelines. That is real BS. That's actually scandalous. It's not the city's money. It's taxpayers' money designed to be spent back on the taxpayer. It's called tax and spend, not tax.
The 3 minutes are up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Larson. Madam City Clerk, is there somebody else?
Matt McCool, you now have 3 minutes to speak. You can unmute yourself and say your name for the record. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Madam City Clerk. I appreciate you letting me on here. Is it possible to pull up attachment number 6? Definitely, I want to go ahead and talk to that. And the reason why I want to bring that up is I want to talk about what, how the importance of what perception is and how important that, how people are perceived by their actions and what they do and how they do things. And that perception ultimately is an indicator of reality. So, Madam City Clerk, are you not able to pull that up? It's the attachment number 6. It's the City Council travel summary.
That attachment is not readily available.
Okay, it's on the agenda. It's on the agenda. But anyway, I want to go ahead and pull this up here. And if anybody's listening, is I pulled this up and I'm looking at the City Council conference and training budget. And as I was talking about, it's perception about how you perceive people, about the things that they do. You can make perceptions about them. As I'm looking at this, I look at Councilwoman Armato, and what I'm seeing is this is somebody who is an overachiever. This is somebody who's engaged in her job and actually cares about what she does. I see Councilman Mayor Pro Tem Jackson and Councilwoman Campbell are engaged at a certain level, which is good. But then I look at Mayor DeToy, and it looks like he's completely not engaged in his job. And this has been a perception of his position being on the city council for quite some time. And this indication here does not look too good for him. And it looks like, you know, Councilman Massey is not all that engaged as well. So I think this is a great indicator about which council members are actually engaged and actually care about their job. Just wanted to put that out there. And, and to give you an example of what I mean by perception, about how you see people, when you're out there driving and you see that individual wearing a mask in the car by themselves, you kind of know that there's something off with that guy. There's just something a little bit wrong. And in other social situations, you see somebody wearing a mask that may not be appropriate. You can draw certain conclusions by that perception of that individual that there might be something off with them. And I just wanted to go ahead and put that out there as far as perception of reality. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCool. Madam City Clerk, is there anyone else?
We do not, if any panelists or if any attendee would like to speak, now is the time to raise your hand. Seeing none, can move on.
Last call. Anybody wishing to speak, please raise your hand. Seeing that we have none, I will pull this back to council and welcome Mr. Mayor DeToy. Council members, do we have any questions, comments?
Before deliberation, would it be okay if I go ahead and take a quick roll call now that the mayor's here?
That's a great idea. Thank you, Madam City Clerk.
The time is now 8:17. Roll call. Councilmember Massey?
Here.
Councilmember Campbell?
Here.
Councilmember Armato?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Jackson?
Here.
Mayor DeToy?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you for that. Sorry I'm a little bit tardy. I have been lurking, listening for the last 30 or 45 minutes or so and listening to the great job that Ray has been doing. So I know that we're at Councilmember comments and deliberation about the mid-year budget, so I'll look to my colleagues. Yes, Councilmember Massey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Welcome back. I want to just thank Vicky and the staff for their presentation. It's terrific. It's obviously good news that our conservative budget projections, which we can count on Vicky and her staff to make, have been exceeded, indicating a strong rebound in our local economy, all of which is good news. My understanding is at this point, we're making adjustments. In May is when we're going to talk about where we are with respect to the coming fiscal year and larger issues about where we are with our CIP program and so on and so forth. So at this point, the staff recommendations certainly pencil out for me and seem sensible to me. And so absent some information that comes forward subsequent to the presentation we just got. Supporting the staff recommendations is what I'm inclined to do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for that, Councilmember Massey. Any of my other colleagues have any comments? Additional questions for staff? Councilwoman Armato?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to Vicky and your staff. You're putting us in a really great place where we are seeing an increase in our budget. I think the best analysis is not based off of our earlier projections where we'd be at mid-year, although I really appreciate the conservative outlook. I think it's best to compare it to where we were in 2019, pre-pandemic, 2019, 2020. And we're ahead of that by over $3 million. So I think that that's just fantastic. So thank you for, putting all this together. I am supportive of staff's recommendations. In particular, there was a comment about the insurance fund. It's fiscally prudent to make sure that we're putting enough money into that. We do have additional insurance on top of that, but there are lawsuits that the city faces, and we need a stockpile to be able to grab from. So I'm glad we're able to be in a position to where we will be able to replenish that, and it's not to the detriment of various improvements that we are tackling throughout town. We have CIP projects that are funded, work's getting done, so it's not to the detriment of anything else that needs to get done in town. So I support staff's recommendations. I'm happy with this report, and that concludes my comments, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman Armato. Since I didn't get oh yes, Councilwoman Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did have one other thing. I don't know if staff would have insight on this, but it asked the question on secured property tax and the trend line that we've been seeing for the last several years. Is there any reason that we would be aware of that we would expect that to level off or decline, or would we expect it to continue on the current trend line, if that's something that we can speak to? I was just curious.
It's been on a trajectory of increasing for years, and even during the last recession, we never went into the negative. So I would certainly hope that that will continue. I guess the degree to which it will continue will be the question, and we will have that information. We will have an estimate for the new budget. We don't quite have it yet, but we will bring that back to you.
Great, thank you, Vicky. And I just want to add that I am in support of approval of this agenda item. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell, as my colleague was saying. I like that. Vicky, I do have a question for you, since I missed the initial one driving over here. How common is the way that we fund our CIP projects by excess revenue versus having an actual percentage of our revenue up front fund CIPs? Kind of the cart before the horse, or the horse before the cart.
Mm-hmm. We have been very successful doing it this way because that money is left over from whatever reason. This time we have, this is one-time money we have left because it's salary savings and other amounts that did not get spent. So when we put that money in the capital improvement fund, it's there and it doesn't need to be used for anything else. It's funds that are available, they're unspent. So we allocate, pretty large amounts to the capital improvement fund. We did have a percentage, a very small percentage, I don't know, a number of years ago, the council wanted to do it that way. But frankly, the operation, if you want this operation with these employees and this level of spending, it's not easy to put, 5-10%, even 2% in at the beginning of the year, because at the beginning of the year, we fund all of the positions. And I don't think in any year, probably, we always have salary savings because people are not here all the time. And of course, it's more drastic now during COVID, but I think this has worked well for us, and we've really been able to fund a lot of capital improvements. So that's my take on it.
Thank you for that. As we look, I mean, we'll talk more about this in the next meeting over the next month or so with the CIP study session, but with the peer study and the parking structure study, I just have some worries about these major projects that are coming to fruition or need to be replaced or, have serious repairs on them and funding them with the excess revenue versus actually funding them up front. So as I said, that's a conversation that we'll have over the next few months.
And we can certainly address those when we'll know those numbers more at that time, and we will do our best to find the money for it.
Perfect. Thank you for your work. Thank you for all the staff's work on this. And just another question, how's the new software working out and versus, last year there were some hiccups, and is everything working out well for the new software?
And we'll see.
All right.
We're still struggling a little bit. We need that printout. I know several of you wanted a printed budget as well, so we're working on those things that were problems last year. So
wonderful.
the company's helping us, so we'll keep our fingers crossed, right?
Perfect. Well, thank you for all your work. Look one more time around the room. Anyone venture out for this motion?
Happy to make a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Let's hear it, Councilwoman Armato.
All right, I move that we approve the revisions to the estimated revenue appropriations, budget transfers, and fund balances as shown herein and in the attached revenue detailed report, additional appropriations report, budget transfers report, and budget summary report, and also approve the following transactions from the general fund. Transfer $239,374 to the assigned fund balance for contingencies in order to maintain the city's target of 16% of appropriations for this fund. Transfer $5,828,197 of unspent funds from the 2020-2021 from the unassigned fund balance category to the assigned fund balance category, and transfer the remaining balance of $3,903,516 of unspent funds from 2021 to 2022 for use in the Insurance and Capital Improvements Fund, and I receive and file the City Council travel summary.
Is there a second?
I'll second, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for that. And just
Mr. Mayor,
yes.
Apologies, but before we go to the vote, I just wanted to note for the record that even though that you came in mid-item, you did nevertheless hear staff's presentation, heard all the public comments, and will be voting on the item. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for that. And just a note on one of the public comments, one of the reasons why I'm not apparently engaged with the City Council travel summary is I have a 6-month-old home and a wife that works full-time. So the major one was the U.S. Conference of Mayors in D.C. that I opted not to go because it was right when my wife's maternity leave was ending, and 3-month-old is not fun to travel or find coverage for that long. So.
And Mr. Mayor, you don't need to defend that you're not engaged. We know you're engaged and care very much for this community and participate well beyond everyone's expectations. So,
with that, I will have no other comments on that. Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Massey?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Councilmember Armato?
aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Jackson?
Aye.
Mayor DeToy?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Madam City Clerk, what's next on their agenda?
Item 14B, approval of letter supporting Senate Bill 953, oil and gas leases, state waters, state lands commission, presented by Environmental Programs Manager Douglas Cross.
Welcome, Doug.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The item before you seeks approval of a letter supporting Senate Bill 953, authored by Dave Min, and it proposes to require the State Lands Commission to terminate all remaining oil and gas leases under its jurisdiction within state waters by December of 2023. And this aligns well with Hermosa's history of working to protect the health and beauty of its beach and coast. The city over the years, of course, has banned single-use plastics to help prevent ocean pollution, banned oil drilling in the city, supported a resolution to protect the coast of California from offshore oil and gas drilling. And so with that, staff is recommending that the council authorize the mayor to sign this letter of support, and we will send it to the relevant legislators and stakeholders to support this proposed bill. And with that, I'm here for any questions.
Thank you for the report, Doug. I'll look to my colleagues. Yes, Councilmember Massey.
Thank you. Thank you, Doug. Just a point of clarification, the bill, according to the staff report and the letter, the draft letter, appears to do two things. One is require termination of remaining oil and gas leases by December 2023 and prohibit any new lease or conveyance authorizing new construction of oil and gas related infrastructure. Does it in fact do both of those things? In other words, require termination of existing leases and prohibit new leases, or does it only do one of the two?
That is the way I understand it, that it does both, with an emphasis on terminating those existing ones.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for that. Any other questions from my colleagues? Doug, when this came to us, there was a question of, have we already done this before by other letters of support? Can you clarify what made this one a little bit different?
I'm not exactly sure on what our previous efforts have done. This one, has some subtleties to it. And to be clear too, this is only leases that are under the control of the State Lands Commission. There are other ones that exist separately from that won't be affected by this. So it is again another current iteration of these continuing efforts.
Perfect. Thank you. Any other questions? All right, Madam City Clerk, can you open up public comment?
Yes, this is a time for members of the public to address the city council on this item only. Each speaker is limited up to 3 minutes. And as a reminder, if you're joining the meeting by phone, please remember to dial *9 to raise your virtual hand and dial *6 in order to unmute yourself. Participants joining by internet, please remember to unmute and please state your name for the record before starting your comment. It looks like we have Craig with his virtual hand raised. Craig, you can go ahead and start now, and we will start your 3 minutes as soon as you introduce yourself.
Good evening, council members. My name is Craig Cadwallader, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Surfrider Foundation South Bay chapter. And I strongly urge the council to approve this letter. It is a continuation of Hermosa Beach's leadership in keeping oil projects out of the area, and anything we can do to shut these down and prevent future potential oil spills as we've experienced, and also to work our way out of the fossil fuel dependencies and to change to sustainable, I'd love to see 100% green power out of the city, but I do strongly recommend that the council sign this letter and forward it. It is absolutely the right thing to do, and I hope the whole state goes for this. We need to shut this down. The fossil fuel is dinosaur industry and is doing too much damage to our environment with climate change and all the other issues we're dealing with. This is the smart way to go. So I strongly encourage you to go forward with this and continue what Hermosa is done so well, especially back in 2015, which I spent countless hours on, and I know others, a lot of others, especially Councilmember Armato and others, spent countless hours trying to keep oil out of the city, and I hope we keep it out of our oceans. And while this doesn't impact the federal waters, it does state. So again, please support this, and thank you for bringing this forward. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Craig.
Thank you. The next person is Trent. Trent, we will unmute you. Please state your name for the record, and we will start your 3 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. This one, first of all, okay, you are on a scale of 1 to 10. This is a Bo Derek for you guys. But gas and oil is a real sore subject right now. There's a whole lot of stuff going on. And what we're going on, what's going on in the world right now shows us that we've made some real mistakes in our gas and oil policy. Everything that's going on right now for gas and oil is environmentalists can projecting and gnashing on people and this, that, and the other. Well, we're going to get our tail kicked.
Looks like we lost Trent. If he's able to log back on, then we can continue his public comment and restart the clock, because the internet was kind of choppy on our end. Madam City Clerk, can you call the next public commenter?
Yes, the next person is Matt McCool. Matt, go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we will begin your 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Matt McCool. I just want to go ahead and follow up. First and foremost, I definitely want to acknowledge one individual is, personally, since I got involved with the local politics here in Hermosa Beach, some of the environmental extremists have made some very personal attacks against me about my conservative viewpoints. But I did want to acknowledge Craig in his comments. He is probably the most class act of any individual I've met in Hermosa Beach. He and I don't see eye to eye in politics. He solely focuses on what he believes in, and he promotes his own ideology, and he does not go out and attack other people. The guy is a class act. I can't say enough good things about him. And Greg, thank you so much. As far as this, I want to address this issue is that it seems like the members of this council still continue to use the dais and this platform to promote your own political ideology. There are several issues that this council has not addressed, and what's going on with Mayor Bill Brand, how he has actively taken a role in addressing the single family zoning issue. And I think almost every municipality in the South Bay, maybe even LA County, has addressed the fact with District Attorney Gascon as far as a letter of no confidence. There are now municipalities moving forward with letters to go ahead and have him removed from office. The city council has done nothing. But also I want to be critical of how this city council of the environmental activists have gone out and selectively enforced or imposed their greenhouse gas emission goals. Last week, I had posted in the Make Hermosa Again Facebook group about the St. Patrick's Day parade that's coming up, is about how they're allowing conventionally fueled vehicles in the St. Patrick's Day parade. You think that would be something that the city council would eliminate. That's great virtue signaling. I don't know why it hasn't been done. And another issue was when we had the drive-through for Starbucks. Why are drive-throughs even allowed? Why is that even, that should be completely off the books. You guys are missing low-hanging fruit here. Absolutely low-hanging fruit that you can go ahead and take care of. It's unbelievable how you're missing this. And the one that blew me away was when an environmental director, Kraus, made a staff report last month that Southern California has 100% green, and the city had not even enrolled in it yet.
A kind reminder that you have 30 seconds left.
Yes, thank you. And I enrolled in 100% green with Southern California, so I could virtue signal. I post it on Facebook all the time. So how is the city continuously missing these green opportunities, but wants to go ahead and sign this letter? I think they should focus more on actually going ahead and being consistent in their policy. Thank you for your time.
And it looks like we have Trent back. Trent, if you're able to join the meeting again, you can finish your public comment.
Yeah. Yes, I'm trying to, can you guys hear me? I can't see you. My camera's not unmuting.
We can hear you, Trent.
Oh, okay. So anyway, I just wanted to talk about the gas and oil. Okay, so honestly, with everything that's going on, and you can see what's happening, and President Biden shut down the Keystone Pipeline, and here we are. Now Russia's holding a lot of cards over Europe, over the United States, and now we have to do business with Iran or other countries in South America that we don't want to because we can't drill here. And we really do need to drill, baby, drill. And we need to frack, mama, frack. And we need to lay pipe down on the Keystone's line. And we need to buck up, roughneck up, and get our own energy because we're the best country at the world in producing it. We're the cleanest country in the world in producing it. We use it for the most good. And
Looks like we might have lost. Oh, there he is.
But yeah, I'm having problems. But anyway, you can't name one thing in your house or in your life that you do that's productive use. And here we are wringing our hands over it because we're saying that's going to kill the world. It is really sophistry and a false prophet. And it's something that is now, I think we're getting woke. Like you talk about getting woke. The whole middle of the country to the right of the country is seeing this for what it is. Poppycock. We do it better than anyone.
A kind reminder, you have 30 seconds left.
Country to the right of the that do not share our values. It's disgusting. And California is just leading the way on it. So
Hi, Trent. 10 seconds left.
No one wants to see an oil rig off Hermosa. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you.
I know you're going to pass.
Thank you.
And Trent, if you do call on any other items, just maybe try telephone for a little bit cleaner connection. Madam City Clerk?
We have one more person with their hand raised. Kent, go ahead and introduce yourself and we'll begin your 3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, before you start the 3-minute clock, let me know that you can see me, number one.
Yes, we can see you and we can hear you.
And number two, please don't interrupt me at 30 seconds and 10 seconds. I mean, it's just so obnoxious, okay? You know, you don't need to really do that.
Go ahead with your comment.
See the clock. Start the clock if you like. And let me know when you do.
The time has started.
Well, I don't see the clock, so it's at 0 as far as I'm concerned right now.
Can you pause it?
There's no clock up there. When you put 3 minutes up there, I'll start talking. Okay, can you go back to 0, please? Okay, first of all, as far as Craig Cadwalader is concerned, I mean, here's a guy, I mean, he can't even run his own life. How is he going to run everybody else's life? I mean, this is a Dempsey Nelson puppet. Everybody knows it. And I have to disagree with Matt McCool. I mean, this guy can't even, I doubt he can even pay his own rent. You know, he looks good in a suit and good for him. That's fine. You know, you're going to write letters. You're going to write letters seriously. When is this council going to stand up against Gascon? Okay. I mean, when are we going to join every other city in Southern California to send a vote of no confidence about this guy? Okay. Why is it that nobody's saying anything? You guys can send letters about this, something going on at the airport, and you know, when are you going to stand up and say that we got to get rid of this Gascon guy? Okay, when are you going to send a letter of no confidence? When are you going to stand up for the citizens of Hermosa Beach and the crime that this guy has brought us? When are you going to do it? That's all I got to say. Bye.
Thank you. At this time, would anybody else like to speak during this public comment period for this item only?
One last call for public comment on the item in front of us, 14B. Seeing no other hands raised and no one else in council, I'll close public comment and bring it back to the dais. Any of my colleagues have any comments? Yes, Councilmember Massey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just briefly to respond to some of the comments, as we learned again over the last couple days and has been the truth for over a decade, there are thousands of unused oil leases within the United States by our domestic oil industry. Keeping marginal prospects off the California coast alive at the expense of our efforts to deal with climate change and the beauty of our coastline, which is so much more important to our economy as well as our quality of life, make this bill an absolute no-brainer. Thank you, Doug, for bringing this forward. I fully support it. I went on the legislature's website and briefly read the bill, which is very short. There's no analysis of it. But based on my quick read, I suggest a couple of small edits, Doug, and just some revision before the mayor signs it and it goes out if it passes tonight. In the first paragraph of the draft letter, it accurately reflects in the first sentence what the bill would do. And in the second sentence, when it references the prohibition of any new lease or conveyance, according to the bill preamble and the bill text itself, that is a reflection of existing law. So I think we ought to modify the second sentence of the letter to say something along the lines of, this measure, comma, together with the existing prohibition of any new lease or conveyance and so on, aligns with the many of our community's goals and would complement the city's ongoing efforts to protect its coastal ecology. That, I think, would be a more accurate reflection of what this bill would do and how it would build on existing law. But with that, thanks again, Doug, for this. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Happy to make a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Sounds good.
All right, I'll move that we authorize the mayor to sign a letter of support on behalf of the city regarding Senate Bill 953, which would prohibit any new lease agreements or conveyances for new construction of oil or gas-related infrastructure along the California coast, and submit the letter noting the changes by Councilmember Massey to key legislators and local stakeholders.
Thank you for that. Is there a second? Mayor Pro Tem with the second. Yes, Councilmember Massey.
Sorry, one brief additional comment. I would add as copies to the letter, Senator Min, our Senator Allen, as well as our Assembly Member Maritsuchi. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for that. Patrick, does that have to be part of the amended motion, or is that just for staff? Because it does say key legislators.
Correct, yeah, so if Councilmember Amato would accept that as a friendly amendment, then that would be the appropriate way to go about it.
Sure.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Accepted.
do you accept that as well with a second?
Accepted, yes, sir.
Okay. Madam City Clerk, are you clear with those changes?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Councilmember Massey?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Councilmember Armato?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Jackson?
Aye.
Mayor DeToy?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. What's next on our agenda?
Item C, consider creation of a nonprofit grant program presented by Deputy City Manager Angela Crespi.
Welcome, Angela.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of the City Council. During the fiscal year 2021-22 budget review and approval process, staff was asked about the possible creation of a program to facilitate grants to nonprofit or community organizations. The city manager agreed to return to City Council along with the mid-year budget to gauge council interest and seek any direction that council would like to provide prior to initiating development of a nonprofit grant program and associated policy. The current practice of the city of Hermosa Beach is to allocate funds for certain nonprofit programs within the city council's annual department budget. The fiscal year 21-22 budget includes an appropriation of $3,000 for donations. In recent years, these funds were used for the Mira Costa Grad Night, the Beach Cities Health District Holiday Bag Program, and student programs offered by Grades of Green. The city has additional avenues for providing support to our community-based organizations. One of the most notable is the Special Events Waiver Grant Program, which was created in 2020. And at your January 25th, 2022 meeting, City Council designated a maximum amount of $20,000 in fee waivers to be granted for special events held in 2022. Other notable forms of support provided for our nonprofit and community organizations include the waiver of application fees and indirect costs through our long-term agreement program administered by the Community Resources Department, waived or reduced facility and rental and facility lease costs, and in-kind staff assistance for programming and activities by the Hermosa Beach Chamber of Commerce and Visitors Bureau, Leadership Hermosa, SCORE, South Bay Cares, and United Against Hate Week, Hermosa Beach Murals, Friends of the Library, and Hermosa Beach Little League, just to name a few. Under the direction of our city manager, staff is beginning to develop better tracking methods for the various types of support that our city provides to these great organizations and the positive impacts that they have on our community. If so desired by City Council, a nonprofit grant program could supplement or possibly formalize existing support provided to organizations that provide a community benefit. Other cities, such as the cities of West Hollywood, Culver City, and Goleta, have similar grant programs. Award criteria included in those similar programs include the size and scale of the organization, registration as a 501c3 or other tax-exempt organization, benefit to the community, number of residents that would benefit from the event or program, other fundraising efforts of the organization, previous support received from the city, and even specialized criteria if you would like to add some, such as cooperation with other community organizations. An alternative to a nonprofit grant program would be for the City Council to consider increasing its donations account and determining which other entities should be added to the list of recipients through the annual budget adoption process. Staff recommends City Council discuss and provide staff direction on whether the city should consider creating a nonprofit grant program to allow nonprofit organizations that provide a community benefit to apply for city funding. If the City Council would like to explore such a program, staff would begin development of a proposed policy and or guidelines regarding how funding would be awarded and return to City Council for review and approval. And with that, we are available for any questions.
Thank you, Angela, for that report. Do my colleagues have any questions? My question was, you covered in the staff report is, a lot of this has already been past practice. It's just more formalizing, possibly formalizing the budget item for disbursement of funds to local nonprofits, which again, you covered in the staff report. So that was kind of what the past practice has been. So I think you did a great job covering that. Any other questions? Madam City Clerk, can you open up public comment, please?
This is a time for members of the public to address the City Council on this item only. Each speaker is limited up to 3 minutes. And as a reminder, if you're joining the meeting by phone, please remember to dial *9 to raise your virtual hand and dial *6 in order to unmute yourself. Participants joining by internet, please remember to unmute and please state your name for the record before starting your comment. Trent, your 3 minutes have begun after you introduce yourself.
Hi. Nonprofits. I would love for you guys to fund them. And the reason being is that most of the ones that we all know, or we know some of them, are very close to our community and they can hit the street right away and they know their mission statement. They don't have to come up with something new in the most cases. to be effective. And, we have $5.8 million sitting on the sideline, according to Vicky. And I'm thinking of this, and I hear the number 20 grand thrown out there, and I was thinking more like $1 million that you would fund nonprofits, and you could have a party with that money, because the nonprofits, that would show. If they had 10 times the money they had before from us, they could do things that they really, that are exciting. And I am about spending the money that we collect from the taxpayers. I am not a tax and hoard person. I'm not proud that we have massive reserves and we build up our fiscal strength. And that doesn't excite me, because I'm about conservatism for the living. I'm about doing stuff for the here and now, and that will make things better for the future, that we correct what is here and now. And I believe that as a philosophy and a living and as a way to govern. I do understand projections and thinking future-looking statements. I get that. But those can all change as the present changes. So I'm about going after what we can do now. So you can't almost fund that account enough. Take the insurance money, put it in that fund if you want to, take a chance. But I get your point, Councilman Amardo. I'm a little bit of a gambler on that, and I can't stand being sued over nothing, and then we cave over seemingly stuff that we shouldn't. That's my point. But fund the nonprofits as best you can. I would go up to $1 million. I would. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Trent.
Matt McCool, please state your name and your 3 minutes will begin.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Hello once again, Mayor DeToy, City Council staff. I couldn't disagree with Trent Larson more on this. I completely oppose this. And it's not that I oppose nonprofits. It's the nonprofit grant program. I think there needs to be a nonprofit city policy in place that is a plug and play when nonprofits need to do business. But I'm looking at this from the perspective, Deputy City Manager Crespi, is that I see this as just more busy work for her. And I've pounded this drum as much as I could for the last 2 months, is that city staff time is a finite resource. I don't see the added value here. This is just going to be more work, more busy work thrown on her plate, where I think she could be doing more valuable work contributed to the city. Particularly regarding the nonprofits within the city of Hermosa Beach, they receive a tremendous amount of support from other organizations, for-profit organizations that contribute and donate money. The Chamber of Commerce is a big supporter of that. I know the Kiwanis Club is, but I want to go ahead and single out one particular organization that was not mentioned, and they do a great job. And this is the Hermosa Friends Foundation, hermosafriendsfoundation.org. Check it out. It's a great organization. If you go check out the board members, you'll recognize probably almost every board member that has contributed to the nonprofits. In fact, tomorrow night, go onto their website, tomorrow night at the Lighthouse Cafe at 5 p.m., they're actually having an event. You need an RSVP for it. But this is an organization. They are probably the best organization, I think, in all of Hermosa Beach, Hermosa Friends Foundation. They support nonprofits. I don't think the government should be getting involved in taking taxpayer money and giving it to nonprofits. There are many, many for-profit organizations who get tax deductions for donating to these nonprofits. This is something the city should not be involved in. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Matt.
Would anybody else like to speak from Zoom? You can go ahead and raise your virtual hand.
Last call for public comment. If you're joining us by Zoom, mouse down the bottom of the screen and raise your virtual hand. Seeing no other hands raised and no one in chambers, I'll close public comment and bring it back to my colleagues. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I understand the city donates a lot of time, a lot of indirect costs in terms of facility use, staff time, and fee waivers already to a lot of nonprofit groups that are doing great things for our community. Is there any way that we've captured that over time, Madam City Manager?
We have. We recently started to collect that data a little bit more in the format of a spreadsheet. We hadn't been capturing it previously, but we make you and the community aware of the leases that we offer at a discount rate. Some, as you know, are at $1 a year. We also, for special events, the policy that the council adopted for fee waivers, we are tracking those, and we've been doing that more consistently in the last couple of years. With a lot of our events, we have staff time that we allocate, not necessarily allocate, but we're asked to provide support at the events. Sometimes it's to set up for the event, and we do assist, and those are hours that we are trying to better capture. So we have some rough estimates that we can give you. It's not 100%, it's not a full capture, but we will get better at that.
Thank you. So in essence, we have this nonprofit grant program with like-kind expenses, fee waivers, and staff time already.
Correct. It's an unofficial.
It's unofficial, right?
Correct.
Okay. We're just not writing checks.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilwoman Armato.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Madam City Manager, for bringing this item in front of us. This topic was born many months ago out of conversations I was having with some of our colleagues in neighboring cities. So Culver City, West Hollywood, Beverly Hills, you name it, they all have a formalized program in which they fund each year in their budget, and they disperse money out through the year to various nonprofits. And I think for them, and I was hoping for us too, to have the option to explore it, it's twofold. It shows a commitment to your nonprofits in town, and it also formalizes what is the process now into something that's a little more coherent for our community to understand, and sets expectations for them in which they can better understand. And, in turn also shows our commitment to them as nonprofits. I heard budget line items from $100,000. There, I'm sure many more that are less than that, all the way up to, it's $1 million in Beverly Hills. Yes, Trent, there are cities that have $1 million budget items for granting money out. We're not in that position in Hermosa, but we do have an opportunity to be able to fund a budget item that would be able to give back clearly to our nonprofits, in addition, of course, to the in-kind that we offer many of our nonprofits in town, and those long-term contracts. But I think it would be, as a community, that, it would look like we're putting our best foot forward. We're partnering with the nonprofits that do so much directly for our community every day of the year. And, it could be something as simple as, the city manager formalizes a process within the city manager's office. Maybe it is, it turns into more of a subcommittee, or between the Parks and Rec and the city council, or maybe it's a committee altogether of a group of individuals like they have in Beverly Hills, Culver City, and some other cities. But I'd love the opportunity to explore what some of our neighboring cities are doing, what those best practices are, and just see what that looks like from staff before we make kind of a final decision on this. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for that. Councilwoman Campbell.
Thank you, Ms.
Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll weigh in a little bit. I strongly support Madam City Manager's comments about the better capture of all the ways that we currently and have for years supported nonprofits in our city, just because of the sake of transparency, and because, as Councilmember Armato said, we think highly of the many contributions that our nonprofits do bring to our community, their direct contributions. So I would echo and support exploring this and putting it all together, so we're not doing one thing with some nonprofits and have some kind of different consideration for others. That way, it would seem fair. It occurs to me, as we've explored in recent years, the last few anyway, really getting some scrutiny on what we're charging for leases and various things. So cleaning it up would make a lot of sense. Would support having that discussion and considering this as a recommendation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for that. And just to clarify for the public, and I'm sure my colleague said, read this, in the staff report, it says if 3 or more council members support this, the staff would begin the process of developing proposed program and return at a future meeting with the full staff report. So this is just an idea and concept that we would talk about moving forward, and the details would come out in the future. And with that, I will also be supporting this, especially if we can get an overview of all the light in-kind donations through the grants and everything else in the events, so we can have a clearer picture if this comes back, if it's supported. Any other comments or questions? Motion? Councilmember Massey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick comment. I appreciate both the intent behind this and the nonprofits who do good work in our community. I will be a respectful no on this item simply because I think this expands the city's role beyond where I think our focus should be in the way I see it. I do believe that through fee waivers and staff time that we commit to managing a lot of events and helping nonprofits through the process, we do provide a lot of in-kind as well as financial benefits. So it could be useful to tally all that up, see where we stand. But at the end of the day, grants to nonprofits is, I think, management intensive for the city. Also, is the type of thing that potentially changes the relationship between the city and nonprofits when they're competing for city funding. And those are all concerns to me, and particularly in a time when we are short-staffed and we are working through coming back online to in-person operations. And we're not exactly sure when the light at the end of the tunnel is in terms of staffing all the way back up, being back in person, resuming fully normal operations, and being able to manage the city's core affairs. So for all those reasons, I will simply be a respectful no on this item. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for those comments. Any other comments? Yes, Councilwoman Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to clarify. Appreciate the comment. I think it's a good one. I will have an opportunity to discuss. Councilmember Massey, just wondering if the in-kind part of support is also, do you feel that to be a conflict, or is that different because it's not, administratively intensive, taxing on staff time, et cetera?
Well, I think it's problematic in its own way, a fee waiver program. Simply because somebody at the end of the day and at the city needs to evaluate whether or not the organization applying has qualified for the fee waiver, and that oftentimes is a very difficult line to draw. When is a supposedly nonprofit event or community benefit event as much or more commercial than it is community benefit? We have such events. The events, what am I trying to, an example is, quite frankly, I forget what it's called, but it's the event that goes on now alongside the Surfers Walk of Fame induction ceremony. It's essentially multiple commercial vendors getting an opportunity to set up their tents and give away free swag all day long, which otherwise would cost them substantial amounts of money. And is that a community benefit event? Having members of the community be able to go down and maybe get a fair pair of free cheap sunglasses or something like that. These are all very difficult lines to draw. I think we ought to, and I think we have started to more formalize our fee waiver program. But there are absolutely issues that relate to whether or not you're expressly granting funds versus waiving fees. There are a lot of complications that go into that and a lot of staff time that's involved in the process. And I don't have the answers. I certainly think it's worth scrutinizing because at the end of the day, there are some genuinely local nonprofits that do benefit from the city waiving fees and do certainly add value to the community and are genuinely nonprofit. But somebody has to make those evaluations on a case-by-case, year-by-year basis, and it takes a substantial amount of time, and they're often difficult decisions to make, and they often get politicized. So the short answer to your question is yes, there are issues with it, just as there would be with a grant program.
Councilmember Massey, thank you for those additional comments. Yeah, it is somewhat complicated. I just wanted to add, I remain supporting bringing back a conversation about this, and just looking to Madam City Manager, I'm assuming we'll get staff input about your recommendations about the staff component of this, and of course, anything else that you can dig up about the conflicts that are raised. Good points. Thank you. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I mean, I tend to be in support of the current construct in terms of staff support, fee waivers, those indirect costs. I am not a proponent of applications for city funding. I think that's a nice to have and not a must have. We are going, I think, above and beyond already just in terms of staff time and effort and whatnot in helping nonprofits, again, with the fee waivers and the indirect cost and everything else. I mean, so if we're looking at a program to better capture that and to flesh that out, I am in support of that, but I am not currently a fan of nonprofits applying for direct city funding. I think there's a clear distinction, and I support the one that we are currently doing, but I am not a support of direct application for city funding at this time.
Thank you for that. Any other comments, thoughts, motion?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Mayor, that we ask staff to come back with possibilities for creating a nonprofit grant program for organizations that provide a community benefit to apply for city funding.
Thank you for that. Is there a second?
I have a question, and I'm depending on the answer, I may second. Would the motion maker accept adding beyond the grant program the intention that's been discussed regarding looking at it as a whole?
Yes, sorry, and so to amend my motion to also get a more comprehensive understanding of all in-kind donations that the city currently provides nonprofits, and include that in, I guess, the discussion they bring back. Yeah.
And I second that motion. I think it would be a great thing to clean up and get a tighter sense of. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Can I just ask one question for clarification?
Sure.
So are we talking about a cleaning up? And I'm in support of a cleaning up, capturing and cleaning up. I'm not necessarily a fan of expansion.
Both are coming back.
Both are coming back.
So yeah, you can support it tonight and not support a grant program later. Or maybe we can change your mind.
And my concern is with, not that I wouldn't support that, but with the time that's going to be required for the staff to bring this back. I mean, I'd put this in the, nice to do category to be considered later, that were.
Well, I'm not putting any time constraints on it. I don't think, no, Councilmember Campbell isn't either. I think that it's just important to get our arms around, and when staff can get back to us on some program ideas and better understanding the donations or in kind that we currently provide, we're not here to burden staff on this. Yeah.
Madam City Manager,
May I ask a follow-up question?
go ahead.
Just so we bring back exactly, if the motion passes, what you are looking for. So my understanding is you would like to have us bring back a thorough capture of all the ways the city is contributing to nonprofit organizations and community organizations, and we listed a couple of them, so we can do that. In addition to that, if the motion passes, you'd like us to come back with examples of how other cities have created a nonprofit grant program, and we can contact them and provide samples of what that looks like, what that program design looks like, and then we would bring that back to you, and you can take it from there.
Well, and I would only add that I think you're hearing from all of us that we obviously aren't intending to burden staff further. So certainly from my perspective, streamlining it, making it clearer to understand, having it be transparent to the community, I would hope that that would reduce the stress on staff. But we don't necessarily need to look at other programs to replicate it, but certainly have staff recommend to us what may work in Hermosa when comparing to some of these other cities' programs.
So I have seen examples, just briefly, of programs where the staff manages it and receives applications, and there's a committee format. I have seen agencies do it where those applications come to the decision-making bodies, such as yourself, and you make recommendations. I've also seen examples of where a certain dollar amount is determined at the start of a budget process, and the decision-making body decides a certain amount is allocated each year. So we can capture that and provide those examples. And as I think you're all very supportive, we would be very careful about adding staff work. We're not fully staffed, and delivering service every day is our first aim. So we can do that.
Thank you.
And that was kind of my assumption from the staff report, so thank you for that clarification. I know that we have donated to the Beach Cities Health District Holiday Bag Program this fiscal year. I know we got a request for one of the nonprofits named in the staff report yesterday or the day before. So I know the city has had the practice of doing this in the past, and as I said, that's why I would be supportive of this moving forward, just to have that holistic view of everything the city provides, including the fee waivers, and see if it's something that we'd want to do moving forward. Any other comments? All right, Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Massey?
No.
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Councilmember Armato?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Jackson?
Aye.
Mayor DeToy?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, what's next on our agenda?
You have tentative future agenda items. If there's support from 2 council members, the item will return at a future meeting with a brief one-page staff report. If there's support from 3 or more council members, the item will return at a future meeting with a full staff report.
Thank you for that. Do any of my colleagues have any items they would like to add to the future agenda item? Or any questions on the future agendas, items on the attachment? Seeing none.
Item 16, adjournment.
Thank you. Just a brief apology that I was late to this meeting. I was traveling, and travel plans got a little bit delayed. So thank you for the Mayor Pro Tem for stepping in. And I will officially say this meeting is adjourned. The next regular city council meeting will be Tuesday, March 22nd at 5 p.m. for closed session, followed by open session at 6 p.m. Thank you and good night.